the regular meeting of Paradise Irrigation District Board of Directors, Wednesday, August 19th at 6:30 p.m. Would like to ask all of the public and all the board members to silence or put your cell phones on vibrate so you don't disrupt the meeting, and would like to ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our gym pastor, huh? Our gym right here?
No, the other gym.
And we, may we have the roll call, please?
Vice President Corolla?
Here.
Director Duncan?
Here.
President Hunt?
Here.
Director Fletcher?
Here.
Director Kellogg?
Here.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to move to item number 15B on the agenda, which is a closed session item. We have two closed session items tonight. A and B. B is with one member of our legal counsel, and instead of having her and paying the bill for 3 hours or 4 hours until we get to that time on the agenda, we're going to move in and only handle business on item B. Come back out, make an announcement, and we'll quickly get back into our regular business. This should not take us too long. It is a conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation and significant exposure to litigation for paragraph 2 of subdivision B of Government Code section 54956.9. It's one potential case, the IBEW grievance regarding assistant lake patrol positioning order. Prior to us adjourning into the closed session, would there be any comments from the public in regard to this item? There being none, we will adjourn. Be back as soon as we can. Don't go away. We're returning from closed session at 6:49, and we do have an announcement to make. On motion by Director Duncan and seconded by Director Corolla, this decision was adopted and approved for issuance by the following members of the Board of Directors of the Paradise Irrigation District. Ken Hunt voted yes. Seth Corolla voted yes. William Kellogg voted no. Larry Duncan voted yes. Doug Fletcher voted no. This is in regard to the decision we made about a month ago. This is the draft copy and now the final copy that is going to be distributed to the IBEW in regard to the grievance issue. And the board secretary is hereby directed to distribute the signed letter, once we sign it, to the IBEW representative. We'll now move back to our scheduled agenda. And just a little reminder, I usually do this at the beginning. I'll tell you that there's a place on the agenda for public participation. You'll see it's item number 3. That's public participation for topics that are not on the agenda for tonight. So I'll ask the public if they want to come up and address us for a period of time for anything they want to address us about. That's not listed on the agenda. And then during the meeting, as the agenda items come up, within each item, I will ask for public participation. We are going to be going to the approval of the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'd like one item taken off the consent calendar, the special meeting minutes of July 16th for correction.
We'll take that off. That's an item 2A topic. Before we go on with the motion here, staff, is there anybody else who has?
We did receive a correction to the minutes.
July 15th.
July 15th.
Okay, so.
To the regular meeting.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, Bill wants the special meeting off, and we have received the corrections. Are those some of the corrections that I brought forth?
Correct.
They're technical, wrong date, put down, yeah, okay.
They're on your desk.
All right, so,
I'll second it.
okay, why don't we go back to the
You want to
motion?
go back and change it?
Make a motion to approve the consent calendar minus the special meeting of July 16th, number A, a special meeting of July 16th, 2015, and with the corrections to the regular meeting of July 15th, 2015.
Second.
Any further discussion on that from board members? Does the public have any comments to make about the minutes from our previous meetings? There being none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There, none. And motion passes 5-0. This is our, I'll get to item 2A, part B there in a moment. Public participation. This is a moment for public participation. If anybody would like to speak to an item that is not on the agenda, looks like we have a volunteer. You can go ahead and go. Your comments will be limited to 5 minutes. And the little rules are on the back of the page if anybody would like to look at it.
My name's Tom Kelly. I've been working in this area for over 50 years now. I just realized that it's 50 years since I first came up here. And I've worked with some of you gentlemen before. Usually I work on the other end of the water spectrum, wastewater. And I came up here 50 years ago. Our company put the gates in. My project was to put the gates in Orville Dam, and I think it's still working. That's one. At the same time, we did a couple other projects. One was in Minneapolis, St. Paul. We built a water treatment plant, and then we built a water treatment plant at the other end of the Mississippi River in New Orleans. Every town from Minneapolis all the way down the Mississippi River treats their sewage and dumps it into the Mississippi River. New Orleans pulls that water out and makes drinking water out of it. Now that technology has been around for over 50 years. It's changing drastically now because they're making tremendous strides on how to reprocess wastewater, and there are two new technology sources are coming online right now. One, you're going to see it in Anderson, California, when SPI puts their new power plant online. It's a 13 megawatt power plant. That's some big power. The other one is in Moortown Rancheria over in Orville, and they're going to be putting in a plant that produces clean water by recycling wastewater and using flash boiler technology, all new technology. But it's there now, it's available. And I just wanted to mention this to the board, is here's our potential source of water. We have water, we're using millions of gallons a day, we can recycle it. The third plant we built was up at South Shore Lake Tahoe. We couldn't open up Tahoe because there was no way to process, build a sewage plant up there. Until they built a sewage plant at South Shore, they couldn't develop that whole area. Well, we built the plant up there. The plant produces 2 million gallons of clean water a day, which is pumped out of the Tahoe Basin over the hill 20 miles to Antelope. That water can't be dumped back into the Tahoe Basin. That is drinking water. And it's been in operation since 1968. So these technologies are out there, and they're getting cheaper and cheaper all the time. So it's just a matter of, I was just wondering whether they even were aware of this, but it's time to make you aware of it. It's there. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Warren Harvey. I became a resident in late 1947. I say that because when I first became a resident, it wasn't my choice. But when I was old enough to make a choice, I made a choice to stay here. So I wish the board would keep that in mind when I make comments. I love Paradise. I like to be here. I'm just a little upset about how the board runs, so that brings me to my 2 comments tonight. Several people in the public have well, more than 2, have alerted me that one of your subcontractors has got extra green lawn. And I had a brief talk with them this week sometime, and they assure me that it's just a sprinkler problem and they're going to try to get it fixed. So that leaves that. But I'd just like to tell the board one thing. We're here tonight to talk about rate increases and stuff. And one of you, I won't single anybody out, but one of you who's a board member does business here in town and has a hanging, like you hang at Wentz's shopping center, an advertisement how to get a hold of them, handwritten, with little cuts on the bottom of the paper and their phone number on it to tear off to contact them. That's how thrifty they are for their own business. And I just wish that the board would be reminded that that person's thrifty enough to do that for themselves. And I think the public would appreciate it if we'd get a little thriftier with the public's money. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Ward Haverhill, I guess I'll take my turn. Hope I'm not last. Dovetailing a little bit on what Tom had to say, as you know, there are a lot of people that give me their opinion and say, hey, if you're going to the meeting, would you say? So I am. And that's that I know you can't action this tonight, but maybe in a future meeting or in one of your committees, that PID, as a board and as an agency, would take a formal stand against the town's proposal for a downtown sewer system. First, it applies to how much water would be running to waste. And as Tom has indicated, there's a way to salvage that water and turn it into something of value. Secondly, when we eliminate the leach fields, what's going to irrigate what's growing there? And that can be a huge problem. Specifically, if you talk to the maintenance guy that works over at Ponderosa Gardens, they have a lot of very mature vegetation there. And they would fear that they would have to irrigate with thousands and thousands of gallons to replace what's in their soil simply because of their leach field. And there are many, many places that have the same issue. So the question that I'm bringing to you is whether or not you would, at a future meeting or in one of your committees, consider that PID would take a formal position against the town's proposal to install a sewer system on the downtown section of Skyway, Clark, and Pearson. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? There being none, we're going to move ahead and we will tackle item 2A, the special meeting minutes of July 16, 2015. Bill, you asked for it to be brought out.
Yes, and Georgiana made this up for me. I got it this morning, and I had copies passed out to all the board members, and I think they're selling for the public. But there's this stuff that was all left out of it that I made comments about or something else, the July 16th meeting, and I'd like it to be corrected and these to be added back into the minutes of July 16th. If I can read them out loud if you'd like. Comments made after Board of Director questions, IBEW presentation, paragraph 5, page 3 of minutes. Director Kellogg commented on David Orr's letters of recommendation and performance evaluations and indicated he feels the argument that some people are missing is wrong. When he has gone up to the lake and David was working, he found him to be very knowledgeable about wildlife and other things. He had no problem at all and never found anybody up there that complained about David's performance. Comments made following the district's presentation by Manager Barber under Board of Directors questions, page 5. Director Kellogg stated that he has been made to understand that Jason Becker was recently brought up on an offense that was confirmed by 2 management personnel. Director Kellogg asked what happened. Legal counsel cautioned the board to not discuss the discipline of a public employee that hasn't been provided notice and that the conservation is going to occur in an open session conversation. Manager Barber stated this is a personal issue and has nothing to do with the matter. adding the person that released this information, Director Kellogg, did far worse than whatever the violation was. It's not in here, but the person that gave me the information is not a district employee. Director Kellogg added, we're not just evaluating a man on his skills. One of the things brought up was his character. David Order has never been on any kind of offense that he is aware of, so when he heard about this, his concerns is that we hired a man and he doesn't know what he is going to happen. But if it doesn't speak well, I could not understand the rest of the sentence, Director Kellogg added, that is my comment. President Hunt responded that a board of director member that brings up a personal issue in a public meeting, knowing full well that a personal issues are closed and private, does not have the best interests of the district at heart. Director Kellogg stated, I actually think I do have the district's best interests at heart by bringing it up and making it aware to the rest of the directors. It shouldn't just be swept under the rug. Comments made following paragraph 5 under Board of Directors questions following district presentation. Page 5 of minutes. Director Kellogg inquired that legal counsel, if the board agrees to give David Orr his job back, would they have the power to do that over George's, saying that he had the absolute power to hire and fire. Legal counsel responded this would be discussed as part of the deliberation process where the board can discuss potential remedies and closed sessions, legal consequences of those remedies. Director Kellogg commented on a minority report given a broken vote. He stated he would like to reserve the right to give a separate report and asked if there was anything preventing that. Legal counsel indicated individual board members lack authority to separate from the board, so you would need a majority of the board to authorize the minority opinion. The actions of your board are governed by the majority. So I'm asking that those comments be put in the minutes. I realize they're in the audio minutes of the district, but very few, including myself, listen to the audio minutes, and I didn't even know where to find them until Georgiana told me where to find them. And I did find them this morning and found that I didn't listen to them all the way, but anyway. So my situation is I would like not to be edited out for whatever reason has been given, and that my comments should be included in the minutes of July 16th.
Is that the form of a motion?
Yeah, I'll make that as a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Mr. President, would you like some input from me? This is really a matter of policy for the board, I think. You are legally required to have minutes of action items taken. That's kind of the bare bones end of the spectrum. How much detail you put into the minutes is a matter of policy, maybe custom and practice of the district. So I assume, Georgiana, these are basically verbatim from the transcript.
Correct.
But are the other statements verbatim, or were other statements left out?
Other statements were left out. I just tried to take the main points that pertain to the matter.
So,
And that was a separate personnel matter.
so keep in mind there's two ends of the spectrum here. One is you can have a set of minutes that basically describe the action taken, the vote that was 3-2. The other end of the spectrum is basically a transcript of every word stated in the meeting. And the district's practice with all prior meetings is somewhere in the middle there. Georgiana is vested with that discretion, subject to your approval each month, of how much detail and specificity is put into the minutes. So there's kind of, in summary, there's no legal prohibition on you adding this content to the minutes, nor is there a legal obligation to do so. It's a policy matter.
Right. Thank you. Yes. George?
I just want to make a clarification to all the board members, just so you're aware. I didn't read these minutes. This was an item that, in fact, I was a defendant in this grievance hearing. So I had nothing to do with these minutes. Georgiana typed them up. They were sent to legal counsel for review. I have never, to this point, read the minutes. Just so I want to clarify that.
Thank you. I'm after a clarification, Bill, the way your motion was made, you were talking about that you wanted your statements put in from this July 16th meeting?
Yeah, because right now there's no statements from me about the July 16th meeting.
Okay. But you're not saying that you are having us vote on having every single one of your statements henceforth show up in the minutes?
I hope not.
Okay, good. I was wondering if we were going to continue.
I've never asked for something like this before because it was no, as far as I'm concerned, it was so blatant. Everything was gone.
Okay, any discussion from the board?
As long as there isn't any legal problem, is there? No.
Okay, well, these are corrections to the minutes. There's nothing that's been added or detracted or misstated. So that's what we're voting on.
And we're not changing policy.
Right, that's what I wanted to make sure.
Right. We're not changing policy.
Correct.
Right.
We're still going to do summary minutes as we have in the past, trying to catch all the highlights.
Could you let me make a statement? I think you all agree with this too. That's one of the reasons why we have the minutes there for approval. And generally speaking, if a board member or whoever is involved with it business-wise would like something of their comments included in the minutes, it's wise to do that for transparency's sake. It really is.
Thank you. Any other comments before we vote? All those in favor say, I'm going to first go to George and ask him if he has something.
This moved off the consent calendar as a business item, so you need to give the public an opportunity to comment before you take a vote.
Which is just what I was going to do. Thank you, George. Do we have any comments in regard to this particular item from the public? Okay, there being none, we'll vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes 5-0. We're going to move on to the approval of the July checks. Consider approval of those general fund checks. So Kevin, do you want any introduction, or are we just going to move right into questions from board members? Just move right into questions. Okay. Bill, would you like to start us off, please?
On what?
Tax register.
Oh, just a minute. Take me a minute to get there. Not used to it being so in the front of the minutes like this. But I did review it. With my usual comment about attorney's fees coming up to $8,500, 1.44 of the check register this month. And this July, we went above, Kevin, we were $59,274 July. It's quite a bit above any other month that I have here on this chart on page 31. Can you explain? It's the orange one.
Yeah, because we had additional expenses, one being AECOM, we paid $58,000 to them. There was another, I believe.
Like a big loan payment for 116.
There's additional payroll payments in there because we had 3 months of payroll or three payroll cycles this month. So that means that there was an additional retirement plan contribution that came out, payments from prior, and also the taxes associated with withholding comes out of the county payroll. So those would have driven up the cost a little bit more than usual.
Wedbush Securities, what is that?
Wedbush Securities is actually, we purchased a bond.
Okay, that's one of the reasons it went up.
That's a good point too. We purchased a bond, an investment bond, this month. That was a quality bond that had good interest rate, and so we took $100,000 out of our checking account. That's where we've been holding a lot of our cash, and purchased a security.
What is good interest now?
3%.
The next page is on page 32. It's you probably already answered most of it, I guess, but it's on the monthly salary expense. Again, it's way up from what it's been in the past. Almost, well, it's 30% more at least.
Free pay period.
Huh?
Three pay periods.
3 pay periods, okay. I just hadn't seen it anyplace else. I'll keep going. Public notice, vendor enterprise of record, page 35, $411.83.
411.
What page?
It doesn't say what it's for, it says public notice,
What page?
35,
35. Who's the two?
enterprise record.
Enterprise record.
Yeah.
Okay.
Know what it was for.
Then the public notice, summary for the water.
Summary of the conservation ordinance.
Oh, okay.
Enterprise does all the Paradise Post, you pay Enterprise. And
It was all 3 or all 2?
Paradise Post. I don't know if it goes into the Enterprise Direct. I think it just goes in the Paradise Post, correct? But they handle all the advertising.
Page 39, number 482255. Oh, wait a minute, that's all? Payment, there are all sorts of things with a number there. It's the Magalia Reservoir Filtration Plant electricity bill of $11,384.58.
Yep.
Did we pump water out of the Magalia Reservoir?
That's for all of
That's a treatment plant.
Oh, it's for the filtration plant and everything. Okay, so it's mostly the filtration plant. Then,
How much would it be if we were pumping?
A lot more.
A lot.
that. Really bypass it from there, probably at least 5,000. At least 20.
next one.
We don't get care. Huh?
No, good care.
Next one's page 40, vendor Rives Auto Parts, Reeves. Do we have we gone through the different part houses to see if we can get a better deal with one over another?
We shop them all the time.
Okay. On page 41, bank fees, vendor Tyler Technology Incorporated.
So those are our fees to process credit card transactions.
We paid them with a credit card?
No, they process our credit card transactions that customers use to pay their bill.
So we paid $3,337 to process credit cards?
What did we get from the customer in that?
How much money? If they pay online, we don't charge them anything. If they go in-house, we charge them $3.
$3.
Or over the phone, we charge them $3.
Right. I knew, I just wanted to clarify.
Page 43, these are account summaries, and you have miscellaneous fees about fifth or sixth down for $1,000.
I'd have to go back and look and see what 1,000. I don't know what got put in that account for that specific thing. 010, source of supply.
That's water right fees.
It is.
The water rights fee?
It's about that number, right?
That's a petition. Yeah, we have a pending petition of the water. I believe it's $1,000.
I think it was, yeah. So those are water right fees that
We're trying not to pay, but we pay, is that what you're saying?
we pay them, that we protest them, right?
The next one is base, it's called for $1,765.78.
So that's construction materials for
Base
base
rock.
rock.
Base rock, okay. Building and grounds maintenance, $2235.25.
Are these not all explained in the monthly check register?
Yeah,
That's for
they're all
building and ground maintenance
summarized.
for the lake itself, so I'm assuming that's.
What?
Go back and look and see.
We really should be looking in the individual checks, not
this
not this account
Bill.
summary.
Actually, you should be looking in the register.
Well, it doesn't say there, is it an individual check or is it several checks put in the same?
Several. It's
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I was asking. I just wanted to know, it went up to the lake, is that what you're saying?
That's for the lake, correct.
Okay, I was hoping it was for around here, but anyway.
No, 15's a lake, so anytime you see 0, 1, 15, that means recreation and security.
Then there's on the next page, page 44, seminars, training. I know it's a summary, but it may be, I think it must be more than one seminar, I would think, for $1,900. Almost, you know,
It's $1,199.
$1,199 for the water treatment plant for some type of education process.
That was all water treatment plant?
That's correct.
Okay. And then, I've got that one already, dues. Employee incentive program for $106.92. Did an employee receive a bonus for doing something?
We don't get bonuses, just we could have purchased pizza for the crews. I'm trying to find where it is that you're seeing that one. Jim?
Where are you at?
He's on the summary.
I know, I'm on the.
Where on the summary? What
Well,
page?
page 45, the second from the bottom, employee incentive program.
Yeah, a lot of times it's, they buy pizza for the crews, they'll,
How about
Maybe food during Pearson Road?
How about Pearson Road? Did you buy food for peace in the emergency on Pearson Road?
We could have.
Yeah.
When we do that, we're buying food in place of a meal.
Right.
a lot of times during inventory process, inventory count will buy pizza for the guys.
And,
I wasn't here for that, so I'm not sure if that would have been.
I have one more. You can get rid of me answering one more question. The last one on this list here says miscellaneous supplies, $24,059 and 58.
That's for that's for pipeline projects, so it's the supplies for all the pipeline. Yeah, it's inventory, it's supplies used out on there, so any type of base rock, any materials like that, that's all.
Could there
So
be some more explanation than miscellaneous
I
supplies?
break it out in detail. I break it out
In the check register, it's completely broken out.
Yeah, I know.
That's where you need to be looking.
From the accounting side, this is how I handle it and it works best for me.
Last week, there was a huge order of pipe delivered.
Yeah, I noticed new pipe in the yard, but it doesn't say pipe on it. It says
There was a-
miscellaneous.
There was a lot of stuff spent for Harrison.
For Harrison, there's a whole list of checks there.
That may be it, 24,000. Harrison,
Is that what they total, Larry?
yeah, North State aggregate was 24,000.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I was going to ask about.
And there you go, in the check register.
Yeah, best to look in the check register.
Yeah, I know, but could there be some explanation other than miscellaneous? Sort of.
What does it say in the check register?
You don't check the check register, which I don't always do.
They do it. That's why we asked for the accounts, because they wouldn't say the council.
Anyway, I'm through. If you have somebody else.
I have a couple. In fact, we talked about one of them just here. It's a page and a half from North State aggregate, which means it's some type of a rock. And it's the Harrison drop. Imagine that's a pipeline we put in, is it?
Where are you at?
What page?
Page number and.
Page 38, we were just talking about it. Page 38, page 39, and it's vendor number with the North State aggregate, and it has a whole list of different checks. Most of them for around $400. I would imagine that's a set of doubles.
That's Harrison.
They charge you each time for it, so you count it up here. That's got to be a pretty big job, doesn't it?
It was a big job.
How many square, how
I
many
put down here,
feet?
how many feet of road thereabouts?
It was in the thousands.
Okay, good.
Probably in Keith's report.
Because you figure that the big blowout that we had on Pearson is going to be a $50,000 repair that our insurance company is going to cover. You mentioned in a report, which is great on here.
And keep in mind, Harrison, the mill, that project, we're getting in there and we're not having to replace pavement. So that's a huge savings, and we'll have a report on that.
Yeah.
But that's a
But
huge savings.
on the Pearson Road project, Are we going to wait till we get the new pipe in the ground and then finish it all at one time with the overlay that the insurance company's going to help
We're
cover?
gonna get pipe under where they're working.
Yeah.
At minimum.
Okay. Well, you figured we were starting at Skyway and going all it.
We're gonna get as much as we can before they're,
Right.
ideally, we'll get it all switched over and hooked up, but.
Well, really, the patch that they put on there is not that bad. There's all kinds of roads that have been that way for years.
Much different than most areas.
No, it really isn't.
Just as good as Billy, isn't it?
In fact, there's places that it's rather smooth.
4,800 feet.
Well, while we're talking gravel, I was going to mention that the Lake Committee, Roger Eakins, who was the one that him and his wife authored the book about the trails of paradise, he asked me, he was talking to me about different things. The trail around the lake, I guess when we patch it or fix it with gravel, we must use AB a quarter, three quarters AB, which is the normal thing, and I haven't thought that. But I guess on some of the turns on that lake trail, it just raises havoc with bicycles. So he asked if we would take a look at that. I'll pass that on to the Lake Committee. I'll look at it out there right now. He's taking a couple of spills.
So that will get it on.
We'll get
You gotta
that.
put it in writing.
I'll put it in writing.
Ask about the extension.
Okay, now, going back to page 37 at the top here, union dues, processing fees. That's $3,100. Is that 1 month?
That's three pay periods.
Okay, three pay periods. So basically, that's just taking it out of, like it says here, $1,121 each time, 65 cents. That comes out of the employee's salary, and then we charge the union $64 for handling it. Okay, good. So that's really an expense that's covered out of the employee's salary. Okay, good. Here. And then I had another one, and I had it circled, and it had to do with chlorine, and Jim would know on this. It's a $27 part. What in the world could you handle chlorine with a $27 part? And I had it circled here someplace, but don't worry about it. It was from Gehringer. Okay, on page 40, as you're aware, I'm quite interested in water rights and what we have to pay to keep them up. We had to pay a little interest to the State Board of Equalization and $1,000. Is the State Board of Equalization, are they what we pay for our water rights to?
What page are you on?
Page 40, bottom of the page. State Board of Equalization.
Water rights
It
fees.
says water rights fees.
I know it. I can't figure out why the State Board of Equalization gets $1,000. Plus we pay them a little interest. Okay, good. And then I had one more here that I was looking for my own thing. Page 42. It has Wedbush Securities. It's a $98,000.
It's a bond.
Is that a bond or?
Bond. We purchased security from Wetbush Securities.
It's an investment.
So we
Investment.
purchased it.
So we're actually just taking that $98,000 out of checking and putting it there as an investment.
Correct.
Is that where a lot of our retirees pay us? Earns on? I know it's over all this.
But that
No
TJ
problem.
fund.
That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you. Larry, would you like to?
Me? My turn? I got a biggie here on page 34. The Butte barn. We paid over $125 for a pair of boots. 99 cents extra.
That's a good catch.
Giving away public
One
funds.
was on sale.
No, 125 is the max that we pay.
I'm gonna call Will Barn and get on.
You get on them, right?
It's
Probably just zeros.
The fact that it's separated, it may not be a boot room. I doubt it's a boot room.
It says safety supplies.
Oh, it does, doesn't it? It just happens to be 99 cents more. Okay, I see
We
that.
could have bought rubber boots, going in the trash.
Uh-huh.
We buy those, that's separate.
That's
from
our
boot
separate.
rooms.
Okay, great.
I'm guessing that's not a boot room.
Right, okay, I see that now. I see that now.
But it wouldn't have gotten that.
Okay, page 40. This is the soccer.
Yep.
Do we, how many different athletics do we sponsor? I didn't even know we did.
That's the first one we sponsored.
Oh, is it?
The
Okay.
back of their shirts is gonna say, Paradise, it's gonna advertise their website, paradisesagewater.com, and, so it's a way of advertising.
What account does this come out of?
Advertising.
Conservation.
Oh, okay. I hadn't seen it before, that's why it wasn't much money, $250. Okay, on page 41, United Rentals. Repair a mud pump. What is, oh, it's not a mud pump, it's a multiple pump. Where was that?
That's a mud
Was
pump.
this a mud pump? Yeah. You know, what is a mud pump? I mean, I know it pumps mud, but where's it used?
It's used in,
Muddy areas.
trench repairs.
Probably on Pearson.
Muddy Pearson.
But
Okay, that's all I have.
a normal pump can't handle everything, so we got a pump that can move solids.
Oh, okay.
Because that is, you can't tell. It could have been your guys' too.
Sounds like a sewage pump. Seth, you have items?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to use the check register, though. I think I already did. Okay. AECom in page 33. Will that be probably our final progress payment for this year, or we're going to have another one, you think?
No.
We're giving monthly.
Monthly? Okay, so those are what those are. Page 34, Butte County Treasurer, the LAFCO operation expense. Is that our yearly dues? What is that? Yearly dues, okay.
I want to point out
See,
that it would be the same even if I wasn't on LAFCO. So you'd be glad I'm on there.
absolutely, that's just our participation.
Might even be higher, yes.
Then the CA Infrastructure and Economic Development Bank, I don't know if we covered this.
That's, it's for the loan for the bypass.
Loan for the bypass, okay.
Yeah, it's iBank. iBank is how we normally hear it.
Okay.
2.77 interest.
That's better than, that's almost as good as that 3.0 that we had. The health equity on page 36, my menu came up, I think it's 36. Why are there negatives to the HSA contribution?
I think
It's not really the amount that I'm looking at, it's the negatives.
I think they were just adjusting it to equal what the outputs versus the inputs.
3 pay periods again? Probably messed it up. Okay. And page 40, did we buy a couple of the poly portables for $32.50? Did we buy a couple of new portables for the lake? Okay.
Where are they going?
And then page 42, Wagner and Bone Senior, the water rights petition, I think we already covered that when Bill was over in the account summary, didn't he?
No,
I think we covered that.
water rights.
Is that
Water rights engineer are working on.
petitions? Okay.
And they helped us with discussions with them when we were working out the curtailment issue too. We brought them in for some assistance.
Okay, that does it for me. Thank you.
I have no topics to bring up myself. Any comments from the public at this time? About this wonderfully invigorating exercise? There being none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval of the general fund check numbers 48216 through 48293 for the month of July 2015, totaling $592,270.34, exclusive of voided check numbers 48222, 48261, and authorization of a similar amount allowing or adjusting for extraordinary budget or board-approved items during the month of August 2015.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Passes 5-0. There being no old business, we'll move into the new business, item 6A, which is the Chico News and Review publication mailing. Manager Barber, would you start this off for us?
Yeah, you guys are all aware of the publication we had developed for $12,000 by Chico News Review to kind of help our customers understand who we are and how we operate and learn a little more about the district. One thing the board didn't approve at that time and was awaiting until we saw the product was a direct mail of the publication to all of our customers. And so we brought that to the communication committee. They supported the idea of mailing it out to all of our customers so they can all get a feel for who we are and what we do. And so you see this before you today. The cost is estimated at $3,200 plus or minus. It's all, most of the plus or minus is what the post office will do to us.
Question.
Go ahead.
How many did we have, how many did we get printed?
50,000.
50,000, okay. I was hoping there was more than just what we were doing now. Is it worthwhile to try and weed out the people who are lots?
Tenants?
No, not
like
tenants, but isn't there a lot of vacant places and stuff like that?
Well, it just depends on what, and Mark can correct me, but it depends on if they're receiving mail or not. This is a saturation mail. It's the cheapest way to mail out a product. 98% of it's a saturation mailing, so you hand it to the post office and they put one in every mailbox.
Correct.
That's active.
They don't even have
So
to
when you
get in
start
there.
trying to,
So that's why it's cheaper.
it's going to cost you a lot more.
A lot more. I know half of these are gonna be just thrown away, that's what bothers me. Maybe more. What?
It's a half to get cat discount.
Yeah.
And seriously.
Good point, Mark.
In a situation like this where conservation is still a very important issue, and obviously it's a rate change, the public needs to be informed and know about the district as well as the specifics about rate change. I think it's very timely to be able to get these out there instead of having them in the warehouse sometimes. So.
But we have to mail the other thing out too, to them too, right?
Yeah, but that's going to be very legal specific to fit the 218. This is more general to help the customers understand who we are and what we do.
It's just, I've been up here I've been here almost as long as you guys out there. But every year I used to send out a postcard telling people where their appointment was. One year they said, talk me into sending out a letter. So I sent out a letter at a higher cost. Half the people thought it was advertising and didn't even open it. And they didn't know when their appointment was either. It's just, it's frustrating at how few people really look at this stuff. This is my point. I guess I'm a tightwad.
We were concerned about that with the newsletter, but we've seen when we advertise a sprinkler head at half price for $4, you get a pretty good response. So obviously people are reading the newsletter. I think a fair number of people are going to open that up and wonder what it is and take a peek at it.
Right. The newsletter is a little different because it does come with a bill, and people do have a tendency to open them up.
Your comment about a postcard makes a lot of sense. And postcards are generally easier to read because they're right there. And really, this is more like a postcard than a letter. It's not in an envelope, and it has a very compelling picture right on the front. It's action. Guys haul the pipe, somebody's turning the valve, and I think it's compelling the way that News Review puts this together for us. You immediately want to open it up and see what it's like. And once you make that first page open, it's a very compelling cover, I think.
Right. I got my copy already.
Out of the 50,000 that we had printed, how many do we have left? Thereabouts. Round figure.
5,000 in News Review, 4,500.
Yeah.
And we're doing about 12 here.
Yeah.
Right. And these are supposed to have an extended shelf life as well. And I'm using them all right now. But it was written specifically to be relevant in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years.
They certainly would be. They're very well done and very readable, as far as I'm concerned.
This won't run us out. Still have 30,000 left.
That was one of my concerns.
Well, unless we're planning on driving them door to door, I'm going to make a motion that we approve, let's see, how should we word this? Approve to proceed with the mail delivery of the Chico News and Review PID publication to customers an estimated cost not to exceed $3,200. Or of $3,200.
It's already, it says it exceeds 3,200. Yeah.
Okay.
It does say it exceeds it?
I'll second that.
Yeah, it says it exceeds it already.
No, it says to customers an estimated cost of $3,200.
On the interior
Right,
page.
but on the next page it says
Any
Oh.
comments,
cost
questions by the board?
$32,444.
No,
Okay.
but
Okay.
Lauren has a comment back there.
Any questions from public? Lauren? Comments?
Oh.
Thank you, Lauren Harvey. In light of the fact we can spend $3,200 to send these out, I'd like to request from the board that you also send out a notification with it that the public needs to vote on the Prop 218 rate raises, because the way you've got that set up obviously is no response. So if I don't know a letter come and I throw it away, you assume it's a yes. So I think in the interest of fairness, we ought to, if we're going to spend $3,200 to send them out a flyer, maybe we ought to put in that flyer the importance of their vote on the coming water rate increase. Thank you.
I would hope that that also be included in the monthly bill, whatever we get ready to do it. Because, you know, the way we bill now,
Okay,
the
we're
flyers
off
that's in
topic.
there.
We're off topic here. We're talking Prop 218. Any more comments in regard to the Chico News and Review or from the public? These newsletter we're going to send out. In that case, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Reluctant.
None. Motion passes 5-0. Now, I wonder where we're going to get that $3,200,
We're going out of this training.
We're going to go to item 6B, presentation on potential new water rate structure. I see the management team is mobilizing here.
May I answer the president's question that he slyly put in? I'm not going to Monterey. You see, if I'm going to Monterey, the end of the month. So I'm not going.
Maybe go ahead and take that $3,000 out of
That's
your.
fine with me, but leave enough in for January, because I'm going to be going to January.
You can have half of it, Kevin. Thank you.
That's where it's coming from. Or it could.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming to hear this out. I want to make a few clarifications. This is a water rate plan being presented by staff. It was presented last week to the Finance Committee. It's being presented to the full board today. Absolutely no action is going to be taken tonight. It's more information. Because of the Brown Act, when you bring something to a committee, you can't tell the other board members about it unless you're in open session, which is where we are today. So 3 board members would have been out in the dark and living off of what the Paradise Code says, although they did a very good job. So this opportunity is for me to explain to the board and the public that absolutely no action will be taken tonight.
George, are we going to get a hard copy of your presentation?
Art,
Are we going to get a hard copy?
I can give it to you.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yep. So, as an introduction, we're faced with a situation where it's time for us to move forward with rate changes. And since we did it last, there's been a lot of changes on the landscape. Legally, some court cases came down that really caused us to kind of go back to square one and figure out what we're doing with our rates. So that's kind of the underlying theme with this whole change is the status quo is not an option. We have to provide the public, you folks, and everybody a justification of our water rates that they do not exceed the cost of service. So this is our water, our future, and that's kind of an underlying theme in this rate schedule as you'll see it. So what we're starting with is a cost of service study. That's what I'm working on right now in conjunction with Kevin Phillips, the CFO, and the finance or the rate committee. And this is an opportunity to get some input from the board as well. A cost of service study will be a large document, fairly large document, that has all the background calculations and how this all works to establish what the cost of service is to deliver water to our customers. One of the underlying themes is you must not charge more than the cost to provide service. That's a Prop 218 tenet, I believe. It must have a basis for differentiating between tiers of the levels of charges. Okay? There was a recent court case in San Juan Capistrano, and one of its big failures was there was not a consistent calculation or decision between different tiers of how that related to the cost of service. And one of the sessions I went to in training was they didn't do the math like you're supposed to do back in 5th grade. So what we're doing now is we're doing the math. It can't be arbitrary, so you can't decide that the highest water users are going to pay for all the water just because. You have to have a basis for what you're doing that. So our current rate structure needs to be redesigned, and we are developing it with 2014 usage as a basis. You got to pick something. So if we went back to 2013, the usage was pretty high because people weren't paying attention to drought, etc. Our conservation efforts at the district were just kind of getting kick-started. 2014, there was a response to drought because statewide there was a drought in 2014, and we took action, and we saw a 20% decrease. Well, we can actually, and you'll see later in the slides, anticipate that we're not going back to 2013 for quite a while. It's just human nature. What we're trying to build is a legally defensible rate base. Now, legal counsel's here, and they're going to listen real close, but don't ask them tonight about an opinion because they have to see the whole project, the whole study, the whole pieces and parts, and we're working with them closely as well to make sure this makes sense. So here we are. This is an idea of our water supply. So you've got almost 16,000 acre feet over our 100-year history of data. We estimate we get 16,000 acre feet in on an average basis. But it comes up and down. Some years like this, very little, and some years quite a bit. Back in the 20s, early 30s, we had a year that we calculated only 1,700 acre feet came into our reservoirs. That's a pretty low amount. And then in the 30s, there was a time period where 3 years in a row, on average, only brought 5,300 acre feet into our reservoirs. Those were 3 tough years. In 2014, our usage as a district was 5393, right kind of in that range. And our most recent highest year, or our highest year of use was 2004, the year I got here, 8,349 acre feet. That was a lot of water. This is getting back to what I was saying about trying to pick a basis for making your analysis. This shows, going back to 57, our production in meters over the years. So you can see right here, this is our community's response to the 77 drought. Almost hit over 8,000 acre feet prior to that. And in that drought, it dropped to 2,000 acre feet. There's a lot of dry yards and dead landscape here. But look how long it took, how many years it took, almost 10 years before it even got back to that level of consumption. Then we moved kind of on up. This is related to our conservation efforts, and this is related to the drought. So figuring out where we're going to be when we get back to the new normal, we don't all know, but we have to pick a basis, and our basis is 2014. So it is defensible, in my opinion, not legal's opinion, but we're working to make it that this is a very defensible process for defining a rate plan. So it's based on our current water supply, our full storage total of 12,300 acre feet. We did a calculation in this process. We have 13,361 equivalent residential meters. What that means is we have about 10,500 connections, but when we have a multifamily home, our multifamily customers, they are counted for how many equivalent dwelling units we charge for them. And then when you go to our business class, each meter size dictates how the equivalency to a residential meter. It's supposed to be a 5/8, 3/4, so when you get to a 1-inch business meter, they're that much, they're 50 gallons a minute for that one, so it's a proportional amount higher than a residential meter. So you do that calculation and we come up with 13,361 equivalent meters. And we analyzed the overall demand based upon 5 usage patterns that we kind of figured out when we were looking at the drought. So back to supply. Supply is kind of the basis. What we're trying to figure out is what can we as a district sustain supply-wise going forward. We don't have a realistic short-term option for additional supplies. We've been looking for drought supplies, and at some point this winter we'll have a conversation with the board, but to spend $5 million for a drought supply, the board will have to decide how we're going to proceed with that. Because in this year, had we invested that money, we would have had enough water so our customers could be 100% supplied. But the state stepped in and said, no, you need to cut 36%, regardless of how you've prepared locally. So we're working with our existing supply and what we have. And adding to those supplies, new dams, etc., they're all very expensive options. So you can see here, this is how much we can supply 100% down to 50% of demand. Up in the 7,000 acre feet, you're talking 2 years out of 10, that we have to ask for cutbacks from our customers. If you get down here to 5,000 acre feet, we're almost able to supply that in almost any given scenario that we calculate. So if all of our customers acted like the middle 20%, the mid-range 20% of our customers, we would have a demand of just under 5,000 acre feet. That is a sustainable delivery of water for the system we have in place. Our lowest 20%, if everybody acted like them, we'd only need 1,425 acre feet a year. We'd be golden. The next 20% group is only a 3,000 acre feet demand if everybody acted like that. But when you start coming up here to our next 20% higher than the middle, that's a 7,300 acre foot demand. That's getting marginally sustainable. And then our highest 20%, if we all acted like them, we'd run out of water every year. Simple as that. So, based on all of this analysis, if you were to charge all of our customers based upon, this is equivalent meters, flat rate, no consumption charge at all, this is our needs for operating the district. The cost of service is $51.53 a meter. That's with no unit charges at all. If we flip the chart 100% there, and we say we're not going to have a service charge, we're just going to charge per unit, it would be $3.49 a unit, based on 2014 usage. And the per unit cost, if everybody acted like the middle 20% and we didn't charge a service charge, it's $4.58 a unit. So what we've come up with, and that we're working on right now, is a customer choice rate plan. So customers would have a choice of 5 available rate plans. They make that choice in the January of each year, and we've had a lot of conversations about making adjustments mid-year, etc. We'll make accommodations for that. We don't want someone to pick the wrong plan and pay for it, be penalized for it. There'll be ways they can adjust if they picked too low and it comes mid-year and all of a sudden they've added a whole family of grandkids moved into the house. They can come in and make an application to adjust to a new rate, and we can do that. We'll have to ask them to pay that rate back all the way to January so that they're equal to everybody else. And each plan has a set water budget. So you'll see use under tier 1 will have no charge, so different than we are now. When you pay the service charge, you get a quantity of water associated with that. And this budget, this of uncharged water, free water, is based on analysis of April to June use. It's not the middle of summer, it's not the middle of winter. We want some conservation impacts with any rate plan we adopt. Therefore, the plans are expected when you pick a plan that fits you. When you get into the summer months, you will be paying some usage charge because we want you to pay attention to your usage. And then the monthly cost and budget will be increased by meter size for business to put them all in the same playing field. So the increase in size of the meter will come with an increased service charge, but also an increased water budget. And the same for multifamily and residential care facilities. Your monthly cost and their budget will be increased by the number of EDUs. So here's where we're at right now. This isn't where it's going to end up. We have a pretty large project with the process water recycle project that in the next month or so we'll be getting a report that will have an engineer's estimate of cost that will give us a better idea of what to expect for the cost of that project. That will allow us to finalize this going forward. So what you see here is a tier 1 charge of $349, saw that a little earlier, cost of all water, $458, cost of water with no service charge for all those folks in the mid tier. And then we have 5 different plans. And how this works is what you're doing is you have people down here that have a need for a lot of water. They have large landscapes they've invested in, whatever the case may be, they have a need for a lot of water. You got folks in this area right here that know how to live with less water, either by choice or they're very efficient with their use, but they can live with less water. So the plan is basically set up, so these folks in the middle tier, that's the middle, that's the cost of service. This is what it costs us to provide service to our customers. And then these other rates will become optional rates. So these folks are saying, I don't need as much water as the middle users that you calculated into the cost of service. So I'm going to get a cheaper rate and give up that water, commit to giving up that water, and giving it to those people that need it. And those people are going to say, I need more water, and I'm willing to pay more than that cost so that I can pay back these folks for the water they don't use, and I can use it for myself. That's kind of the underlying theme through this process. Right now I've updated it so it includes the fire hydrant fee, so you're not confused. That's $1 a month. So in the lowest plan, up to 4 units, you pay $26.43 flat rate, period. When you exceed 4 units, you start paying $3.49 for every unit between 4 and 8. When you exceed 8 units, you're really busting your budget. You've committed to be this super saver, but you're probably not doing that. So then you get into this tier 2 charge. And that's how it kind of flows through. All through the whole process, you get a free equivalent of water that you're willing to pay more every month, 12 months out of the year for. And then you're kind of paying back these folks that are signing up and saying, hey, I'm going to sell my water to you, basically. It's my right to sell that water to you. So this is how it's working. It has a pretty good spread. And you can see this is the lower end of usage. And you can see where we're at now versus where we're headed. So if you're an A-rate customer, which is this red line right now, and you sign up for this blue line, light blue line, that's a super saver rate, anytime you use less than 4 units, you're either saving money or you're break even from where you are right now. The next group up with safer rates is right here. And if you were a low end B rate, couldn't quite make it to the A rate qualification, you can run up to 6 units here and be at about the same cost basis as you are currently. But as you go higher and higher, it's a flat rate for a lot more water, but then you pay significantly after that if you can't fall within that budget. So here's the bigger picture. It goes up to 60 units, and you can see all those lower ones are down here. And you can see these folks up here are paying $90 a month, 12 months out of the year, and then it exceeds. So there'll be a decision point. Based on where we're sitting right now, we'll recommend that everybody get put in the middle because that's what we calculate the cost of service. And then people will have the opportunity in January to move to whatever rate they think they need for their water budget. That's an overview. It's not a great detail because it's still a work in progress. But I wanted to expose it to the board and to you folks that wanted to hear it and answer any questions.
First from the board, go ahead, Jeff.
Where's the ag rates?
The board will have to deal with ag rates. They're not in here.
They're not in there at all?
No.
Is this residential?
Just residential business and et cetera are dealt with in this calculation. Ag is 20 some customers. The board will make a decision on that going forward, but it's a pretty small piece of the pie. And I have no proposal for that right now.
I know it's very important to some of our customers, even if there are 20. Dustin has pointed out in the past that the ag rate is an important part of our business to be able to, for our water rights and other things. Okay.
There was one thing I wanted to bring up before we get into any more open discussion. We had a committee meeting in regard to the ad hoc water rate analysis. Larry Duncan is the chairperson. At this time, I wanted to ask if there was anything that you specifically wanted to bring up or mention, or are we just good to go with what's been presented?
I think we did have a few audience at our committee meeting, which doesn't usually happen, which I was glad they were here. But I said basically he's covered exactly what we did in the committee. Okay.
I just wanted to give you the opportunity.
Right. The only thing, ad hoc. Aquahawk?
Aquahawk?
Yeah, Aquahawk. It's important that you let people know that if they want it, if they're not on it already, they should get on it because it'll tell them what they should pick because they're...
It will. We are also working on a website solution to help people see what, based on their 2014 or 2013 usage, how that would look in the new plan. And you're right, this plan would need to be an option if we didn't have new automated meters, because customers got to have the information to make an appropriate decision.
How many of you aren't Aquahawk?
Are or aren't?
Aren't.
How do you even know if you're on it?
You have to sign up to it.
You have to sign up.
You have to sign up. There's no fee. There's no fee for it.
A lot of people don't even know what it is.
We've been putting the word out, but we're trying to get everyone into it. How many people are signed up now? Over
2,300?
Yeah.
10,000.
2,300. And did you correct that where I signed up to 4 meters?
I asked her, I haven't got the clarification.
2,304?
Right, I want to be counted 4 times.
Yeah, I asked her that, and I haven't got the clarification.
Okay.
My guess is that about 20% of our customers that are low income and do not have computers. Now, we got to have some way of informing them about this. If we can't depend on Aquahawk, and they're not able to, if we can set it up where they inform them, they can call into the office and find out their usage or something, but otherwise they're not going to have a clue about it.
It's already set up like that, and
We're going to have a website that'll help them choose. We're going to have a tool in here to help them choose, and we're going to have customer service representatives to help them choose.
And
they'll be able to pull up an account, put same thing people are seeing on the screen and say, here's what the cost is based on 2014.
Plus, if they don't have computers, they can come in here and use, we have two for customer service.
They won't even do that. The people who are at the lowest end users now, want that low bill, they aren't going to study anything. They're going to sign up at that lowest charge. They're going to be protected.
In fact, that's why.
Their usage isn't
I like
changing
the way you
anyway.
said that you didn't say rate increase. Because some people may not be paying more for water.
It's a rate
So
change.
what, are you going
It
to
is
protest?
an increase.
You're going to protest because you didn't get a rate increase?
Any other questions or comments from board members?
Not at this time.
I will ask the public if there would like to be any comments made. Go ahead, Warren.
I got 3 questions about it. One is does this...
Well, the questions are to the board, right?
Okay. Questions that I'm curious, is this formula include up to $5,000 a year per employee pay raise? And the second thing is this an accumulating rate? In other words, obviously I'll be taking the lowest rate. And do I get my three or 4 units a month? If I don't use the three units, say I use 2, do I get 1 carryover? Or do you guys just eat it up and match it somewhere? And the third thing is notification to all the people that make sure we get that out to them, because I think a lot of people could use the low rate. Because I only have about 12 drip emitters outside, and that's it for me. So.
Okay, well, I think the only question that warranted answering is your second one, and that is that there's not any carryover of water in our current plan.
Yep, I can cover that.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is built on no carryover. It is not rollover data here. This is no carryover. That's how the process is built. There's actually benefits to us to using more water in the winter in the new process recycle project. We also have full reservoirs many of those months, many of the years. It's not as big of an impact to us. As far as the salary increases, this is based on the 2018 estimated budget that is being worked on right now. And lastly, we expect a very large outreach campaign, if this is approved, to let people know, choose your plan.
Any other public comments in the back all the way? Tom? Okay.
I came up here 50 years ago. This town had about 5,000 people, a couple thousand dogs, and God knows what else up here. There was, population's increased, and I don't see a population factor built into this rate structure at all. We're looking at, will our population increase on the ridge as we can supply more water? We have demands on our water already down the ridge, and people want to come in and they want to annex to Paradise and get Paradise water. I'm totally opposed to that. I mean, if you want to live in Paradise, you live in Paradise. The other thing is I don't see a tiered rate structure like the PG&E, where they've got a tiered rate structure based on your income. If you got a certain income, you pay so much for electricity, and this is what's happening. We're subsidizing people who don't even work, and that burns me up. The way I look at water is, if I'm going to use 100 gallons of water, I'm going to pay for 100. If I'm going to use 1,000 gallons of water, I'm paying for 1,000, the same rate. Whatever it is, 2 cents a gallon or 10 cents a gallon or whatever. And this is a good idea. I mean, this is a good idea, but it's really strange to me. And I'm looking at it because when you work on the other end of this whole spectrum of wastewater, we look at how much does a business use? And most of the businesses downtown or retail businesses, they use very little, 150 gallons a day for business down there. The high water users are the restaurants, and that's what we're dealing with. How do we take care of the high water users? The regular single family house has it's based on how many people, 4 people four per household, doing laundry or cooking and washing and everything else. So there is a structure and a formula built in there. And I'm a low-end user. I mean, I can tell you that right now because there's only two of us now. But getting the information out is another thing. I mean, forget about getting it on the computer. I'm totally opposed to that. I'm having a hard enough time with what I'm doing right now on a computer, and we're supposed to be getting the information. This is public information. It's personal to everybody in town that uses water. It should be on your water bill. I mean, that kind of information should go out as a mailer so everybody gets the same information. And older people can make it in some way that they can understand it. I'm looking at this and say, well, the tier system, what I've seen, having 13, here's another thing with these meters. Now I realize that the meters are different sizes. But are you unlimited to how much water you use with these meters? If you buy a big meter, I mean, I didn't see that. Because you have a 1-inch meter, are you limited? What's your limit on how much water you use?
Yeah, if you have a,
yeah, make sure you direct your question out here.
Okay.
Go ahead and answer.
When a business selects a meter, if they select a meter that's too small and it's overworking the meter, they have to pay to upsize that meter.
Okay, but now how much water are they? They say we get the top tier, they've been 95.
There's no limit, and that's what you.
There's no limit.
That's exactly right.
That's the other thing. Here's another point that's coming up. And I'm working with I'm on the National Fire Protection Association, and I'm totally opposed to putting sprinklers in on the houses, their units, because we can't provide enough water and water pressure for these houses. It's ridiculous. I mean, we've got you've got to have a constant supply. You've got to have enough pressure, and any new house has got to have an upgrade. And where they're building the houses, a lot of places we don't have the water pressure. So I mean, this is one of the reasons why I'm opposed to it. But if you opt to build a new house, then you're going to have one of the new meters. And so there's a lot of other factors that enter into this thing. If you need a new rate structure, okay, go for it. In 50 years, you've been doing a pretty good job. That's why you don't see me at these meetings. You take care of your business, I take care of mine. Generally, put it that way. But this is one. I mean, I got to really sit down and look this over because on the face of it, you know, I can see where I'm in the low end. Well, what if everybody just says I'm going to give me the low end? What happens then if everybody signs up for the low end at what was it, $3.49, and then come back? Well, you find out who's going to keep. How do you record that they use more water? If everybody signs up the low end, what's the telltale feature for you to say, hey, you're overuse? I mean, is there something built in there to tell?
It's the meter.
The meter? That's if you've got an ACWA or...
No, your meter.
Okay.
Your meter tells me anyway.
Your 5 minutes are gone.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Ken. I'm John Regalia. Coming to this meeting and hearing the bits and pieces of it, I was a little bit concerned. I think George and his staff did a real good job of coming up with something that probably 95% there, as he said, it's a work in progress. Two things that jump out at me are, number one is we've got a lot of renters in this town, and when the landlord picks a rate, we need to make sure we're communicating with both the tenants and the landlord, and they have a communication in there, because if you get a landlord that's paying the bill and the one that makes the decision and says, okay, I'm just going to the lower rate, and the tenant is kicking them into that high tier, they aren't going to blame each other, they're going to blame you. And I don't know what the answer is to that. The second thing... What?
They'll blame the tenant. That's where it'll go.
Then have the tenants come in. I mean, it's going to be a nightmare. But the second thing is, it would be nice if, because you have varied usages, if the billing amount similar to the budgeting plan that PG&E has, even if you don't roll them over, that they can, you can give them an estimate and say, hey, if you pay this much a month, we aren't going to shut you off. And maybe you're behind for a few months, because even in the summer, if you aren't working outside, you're using more water, and kind of level it out. The last thing is, as far as to a comment that just came up, the fire sprinkler systems, with the amount of pressure, 10 psi at the head that we need, your 3/4 inch meters do a great job. The one that we were concerned about 2 years ago, we were going back and forth on, at 10 psi at my building, I've got 80 gallons a minute. I've got 60 gallons a minute at 60 psi. And now I'm in a good part of town for pressure, but it appears to be that in most places the fire sprinklers work. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before I call for the next public person, George, would you mind, do you have the capability, can you clarify about the PG&E? People are comparing us to PG&E.
Yeah.
We're a public entity.
Yeah, let me make it perfectly clear. The state constitution does not allow us to have a low income rate.
I'm not asking for your
No, but others are.
slow down.
Others are. And
we have payment arrangements for people. This levels it up much more than it does currently. It's a much more leveled approach. So I don't hear that from customers a lot. They don't talk to me, but my door's open. I hear when customers come in all the time. That doesn't seem to be an issue. When it is, we have opportunities to make payment arrangements.
The way I see it is, if you pick the wrong level, you may end up paying more because you picked too low. Correct?
Yes, but we're going to be recommending their opportunity to fix their mistake.
Right. Yeah, it's not fixed in concrete.
next public comment, there you go.
We're not out of time yet. My name is Barry Bunty, and I'm a resident of Paradise. Couple of questions. What is an EDU?
Equivalent dwelling unit?
Equivalent what?
George, would you like to explain what happens with larger meters and for multiple families?
It's an equivalent dwelling unit. So in multifamily applications and residential care facilities, each customer or account is assigned with an EDU.
I pretty much knew what it was.
Yeah, that
I didn't know how to define it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I have a question regarding how the rates, the unit rates were calculated. Excuse me. The current unit rate is about 75 cents for a unit of water. We're going to go to $3.49 for Tier 1 and $4.58 for Tier 2. How were those numbers arrived at?
Well, we're going to have George go over that again. He did explain it as taking all of these mid-users and saying if everybody was at this level, this is how much money we would have to have to provide that level of water. Would you redo that, George?
I missed the math, George.
Yeah, okay, I can go back. This one.
That included the service charge too, though.
So if you look at, let me go back, I think it was up here. Nope. Right.
That one.
Right, assuming
There.
Okay, so $3.49 is what we would charge per unit based on all of our customers if there was no service charge.
Okay. All right.
So the idea of picking $3.49 comes from the fact that we have a limited supply, we're making an allocation of that supply, and if you're going above that, you need to pay the full cost without a service charge.
The 458 then was
That was if everybody acted like the middle 20% and used that much on an annual basis, it calculates out to $4.58 a year.
Thank you.
So it's a little gentler on the first tier because it averages everybody out. And then to get a little more severe, we get you charged at where everybody's technically paying the cost of service.
Calculations are based on, they refer to the creation of the preliminary 2018 budget, which I believe is in process and not complete. Is that correct?
It's only in process at the CFO level right now. We're not entertaining the 17-18 budget. So that
proposal calculations are referred to.
Are projected calculations.
So we're looking at these calculations covering a 3-year window of expenses and expenditures. Is that correct?
At the end of that 3 years, we're going to be at a certain level of pay with our union contracts. We're going to have other rate increases from our suppliers.
But hopefully this structure will carry forth for 3 years.
Yes.
Yes.
Is 3 the longest we can do it?
Well, we're also
run it forever.
In the committee about. Were you going to talk about cost index?
Well, I can explain the 2018 and what the significance of that is.
Okay.
It's because we have major capital projects that will be completed as of 2018. The biggest being the process water recycling project. So that's why we chose 2018, because we wanted to put a rated plan in place that would, like you said, sustain us through this time period. We're not looking to come back to the public in 2 years and go, sorry, now we got to increase your rates another whatever percent to cover this. We want to encompass all of the projects that are associated with that. Also included is cost of COLAs, increases in cost. There's also a recovery of drought revenue that was lost, that was estimated to be collected throughout the next budget years. So there's an encompassment of revenue increases that we're looking to recoup, and that's why that 2018 is such important.
And there's also smaller capital projects that we need to buy on a year-to-year basis. We've cut that the last couple of years down to nothing, and we're getting to a point where we're going to start having equipment purchase needs and things. So we want to build that. You
factored that in.
Absolutely.
Plus, didn't you factor the lost revenue?
Yes.
That we had from prior years?
That's what he just said, yeah.
Okay. And are we not considering?
One last question, quickie.
Okay.
Everything's still in process. Do you have a date goal for final numbers?
We're a little jump ahead, but we're looking at a budget approval in September. And so we're probably start having rate discussions with the board in October.
That's all I've got. Thank you very much.
Shortly thereafter with the public.
Pardon me?
And shortly thereafter with the public.
Well, yeah, you can't forget them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll take my turn now. As has been practiced with some other places, Del Oro's most recent example, they overcollected in their water bills to pay for a project which didn't cost them that much and had to refund some of that money over a rather long period of time. So the question here then would be, we're looking forward to the 16-17 and 17-18 budget with some very significant capital projects. Once we're over that hurdle, and you're looking at the 18-19 and 19-20 and 20-21 budgets, which may not need as much money, would you lower the rates?
Likely not.
Can I clarify?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, I can clarify for the public.
Right. Okay.
Del Oro Water Company is a private water company governed by the Public Utilities Commission. They have a 100% different set of rules on setting rates than we do as a local government. So how they operate is not even relatable to how we operate. And the 2018 budget doesn't contemplate paying for that entire project. it contemplates those large capital borrowings and the payments and debt service towards them, not paying them off. So those will be 20-year, 30-year in existence.
You're clarifying this for the public. Does that mean no, there's no way the rates would ever go back down?
Yeah, I doubt it. I mean, I'll never recommend it.
Good. No, that's
Question.
That's the answer we were looking for.
If we do lower rates, if we don't have to do a,
Oh, shucks. Don't say so much next time.
if we do,
Okay, so I also think it's a good idea, in whatever kind of communications we're doing, is to explain to the public the difference between what we are as PID and why we're not governed by the PUC and their approval of a rate increase, okay? Because there's a lot of misconception about that. Same thing with some of those PG&E changes as well, which may be confusing to some people. Also, I am really excited that there's a name for me. I didn't know I was going to be a super saver. That I really like. And in fact, if there was a way to get a banner up or something, I think my entire street should get a Super Saver banner sponsored by PID. We only have one person left that's still watering their lawn and only one person left that's washing their own car. Otherwise, we're all less than 5 units. We're the Super Saver street. Can we do something about that? Never mind. Moving on. The cost of ACWA, and I'm not positive, but I think I've heard it quoted before, it's around $1,050 or something a month.
10 cents a meter.
Okay, so it is a valuable asset to every single meter holder. Just like I pay for 911, if I never use it, I still pay for it. I pay for 811 with PG&E, even if I never call to find out where the utilities are where I'm digging. It is an asset that everybody has access to if they want to, and I think everybody should get an extra 10-cent charge on their bill. That would just about cover the cost of ACWA, wouldn't it? And everybody can afford 10 cents, frankly. I don't see any reason why we're not doing that. Whether you bury it in with the cost of a rate increase or how you do it, we pay for a fire hydrant. If I never have a fire truck filling their tank on my street, I still pay for a fire hydrant, don't I? We do this with several things, right? ACWA is in that same boat. Let's charge everybody 10 cents and cover the cost. So we don't have to say it's free anymore, but that's the value of it. It's a free access by your internet or by this office to find out how you're doing. And frankly, everybody should be doing that. Okay, and I think, let's see. Oh, and by the way, I do know of some builders who have refused to consider the sprinkler application because of water supply in this town. I disagree with that, but I do know a couple of them that have done that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Worship.
a clarification, isn't it true that if we did lower the rates, we don't have to have a Prop 218 hearing?
That's correct.
That's correct.
If you somehow, remember Proposition 218 establishes the fee ceiling or the assessment ceiling. You don't have to go through the process again if you lower rates. It's just if you adjust rates upward.
Okay. Is there another public that would like to speak to us?
I just had a quick, my name is Mark Thorpe, District 1. And just had a question on, and I'm not familiar with Prop 218, trying to do some of the background research, kind of get an understanding, participating in the committee meetings and the board meetings, etc. Becoming an informed individual for paying my rate. I'm a bit concerned that a lot of individuals that I speak with, and kind of mirroring some of the comments that have been made, are not necessarily willing to participate in the ACWA for whatever fear they can conjure up, but I understand the need for it is through the process of technology, and it is an asset. Very good point. I just don't, I'm somewhat pessimistic in the sense that I don't know that people are going to buy it within a 3-month period to be able to make those adjustments for January. I like the ideas. I like what's being presented. It makes a lot of sense as a business model, but I have some concerns about a 90-day time frame. Just putting that out there. The other issue I had, and it's more of a concern, there are the projects that are going to be continuing on. We understand that. We're going to have those anticipated costs and unanticipated costs. I think people are being asked to pay more. I don't think. People are being asked to pay more, consuming less, but not seeing the irrigation district, and I want to emphasize this is probably perception, is not cutting back equally. That there isn't an attrition process occurring here that everyone else is asking to embrace. I'm not sure how public relations can handle that, but I do know that people often ask for something back if we're giving something out. So just something to consider as a board, and I understand completely what you're doing here, and I appreciate all the work. It's just a matter of perception, and it's going to be a 50+1 if I understand it for Prop 218. That's a big hill. So just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
No, it does not have to be 50% plus one. It's a majority protest. So
50% plus one against.
Yes.
50+1 against.
It's not an affirmative vote.
Understand.
It's an affirmative protest.
I see. And the mailer that's going to, if I can continue on, the mailer going out is going to continue.
Stand is still running. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Ken. The mailer going out is going to explain this, correct? Because the participation of the ratepayer is going to be paramount. I think it was touched on about getting that feedback.
The notice is dictated by Proposition 218, so it's going to comply with whatever the law requires. I'm going off memory here, but I'm pretty sure there's a component in there. There's an option where you can protest. It is in the ballot material, so to speak. What the district will not do, at least that you didn't do at the last rate increase, is actually have a protest form in the part of the ballot. Not required, and the district didn't do that in 2010 or whenever we last did this.
Well, I thank you for the clarification. That's what I need to know. Thank you.
May I add something that I missed?
Okay, there's a little bit of stand left.
One point I didn't make is every water district is different, which is why every place has different water rates. And in our situation, I'm going to guesstimate that 99% of our costs are fixed, whether we deliver 1,000 gallons or 5,000 acre feet. We have very little energy costs associated with our water and very little chemical costs associated with the delivery of our water. So while people think that conserving less is saving us money, unfortunately it's not. So for us to give back, it means cutting jobs. It's our only option is cutting jobs or cutting jobs.
Cutting maintenance.
Yeah, cutting maintenance. Cutting capital that some of them like.
Sounds like cutting quality of service.
Not fixing leaks?
I'm surprised, George. I thought we could just ask the union to do a wage roll. Okay. Any other public comments at this time?
Collectively, good job.
Yep.
Thank you, and thank you, public, for participating and providing input. I've made some notes myself. Thank you very much. That is the end of our informative process. Thank you, George. We're going to move on to item 6. What time is it? 8:30? How about a break? Board members would like a 5-minute restroom break. So we will reconvene at 8:35. Please be back. At this time,
Here was your paperclip. I conveniently stole that. I don't want to be accused of taking public funds.
At this time, now we'll reconvene our court meeting at 8:43.
Okay.
And we're going to move on to item 6C, constructed wetlands update. Division 2 Director Kellogg will be providing us with an information item only presentation. Director Kellogg?
The only sensible answer is constructed wetlands. We're going to be looking at a 9 to 10 million, we don't know, maybe next month we'll have some idea, of an old-fashioned, old engineering type of recycling water plant. This is something that's out of the 50s and 60s and is mostly concrete and so forth. It'll save millions of dollars to go with the constructed wetland solution. It'll improve wildlife habitat, one thing that the other program will not, will improve water infiltration for groundwater recharge. The other project won't do that. And we do own the land where the proposed wetlands would go in. We're not having to buy any land. We're not having to have miles of pipeline involved like there is in the other project. The soils there are excellent for removing aluminum from the soil. This is not a joking matter. This is one thing that ACOM said, well, can you get the aluminum out of the water? The answer now is yes. It's being done all over the United States, and in Canada was the first shot at it. And the soils are excellent because they have a very good infiltration rate. That's the water going down through the soil. There won't be any barrier in the bottom of these wetlands to stop the water from going down in the infiltration. That is also will keep down the cost. Now, the information for this, the slightly acid soils, excellent infiltration, heavy in iron. The heavy in iron is key to getting rid of the aluminum, to tying it up. Aluminum is a metal. You're not going to tie it up with organics or biological things. You're going to tie it up with other metals, basically the iron in the soil. We've used NRCS, National Resource Conservation Service, soil maps and descriptions to come to this conclusion. Using existing ponds by modification and remaining in service to a certain extent. Some of them may go out, but some of them would stay. We're going to remove the chemicals from the water, utilizing aeration with waterfalls or fountains. The half-life of the chemical, the principal one we are in violation of, can actually be settled up by putting a sprinkler system in one of the existing ponds or both of them, and the half-life of the chemical is so short, and with aeration, it will disappear. It won't show up even there in tests, just with an aeration system. The wetlands will have the aeration system. History of constructed wetlands. Somebody said, well, this is new, and then nobody knows anything about it, and this sort of argument. It's been around, it's 25 years ago that EPA made information available. The thing's about an inch thick, and it talks about constructed wetlands and how to put them up. The thing is that technology has moved on in that 25 years, and we even have better ways of doing it for these constructed wetlands than we had in 1990. In 1990, Arcata, up on the north coast, put in a wetlands, which are still operational, to treat sewage plant that was headed up by instructors at Humboldt State College in the biology department. The engineers objected to it, didn't know any better, and the people in the area were convinced to put in the wetlands. It saved them millions of dollars. They're still operating. There's not, I'm aware of any problems with them, except people go out to watch the birds there because of wildlife habitat. And they saved millions of dollars in construction, maintenance, and other things for the older traditional systems. And that's why they put it in. It wasn't because they were in love with wetlands. It was because wetland worked better than the construction of concrete and other things. And there's a district in Southern California that uses quite large wetlands. But also they've been doing constructed wetlands experiments for the last 10 years, trying out new ideas in constructed wetlands and how to use them, how to improve them. See, a constructed wetland is not a permanent wetland. You can change it, move it around, do other things in the future if it doesn't meet your needs for whatever you're trying to do. It's not protected by any laws for that. A constructed wetland was deliberately named by EPA and described by EPA so that it could be constructed and changed over time, whatever is necessary. These are used all over the world now. There's more references to constructed wetlands on the internet now than there was 2 years ago when I got involved with this. And I was very ignorant when I got started. And thanks to Jim giving me an update on one proposed wetland that wasn't a wetland, it helped me go and investigate more and get more information. And some of the information you get is from the UK United Kingdom, they have an association there. It's at least 10 years old now. They celebrated their 10-year anniversary last year. And all they do is educate the public and work on the different ways that wetlands can be used, both for sewage and household sewage and potable water, drinking water. But the problem with the drinking water, it's so simple to clean up as opposed to the sewage installation. You don't hear of many installations for it. Most of them are dealing with sewage, and they're doing an excellent job. Something much more terrible to deal with was more chemicals and other things in the water that they need to get out, and they do it with the wetlands as the last part of the process. We actually have wetlands. They're not called that. They're called their ponds in Chico and throughout the Sacramento and San Joaquin valleys, hooked up to sewage plants, and the water that leaves the wetlands can be percolated in the soil, released into rivers, and so forth out of the sewage process. So that, and I think, was it you, Ward, or somebody else mentioned about all the water going away if we ship it to Chico and sewage? Yes. Well, it turns out you can use small wetlands behind a house instead of a leach field. And it can percolate down. You can use it where the soils are only 18 inches deep, and so you don't have to dig 6 feet down to put a leach line in. And they're being used all over the world for single and multiple house dwellings. It's something that I think the town of Paradise should possibly look into. They're inexpensive to build, and people have them out in their backyards, and they think they have a little flower garden or something there. So when we have estimates on cost, capacity, size, and location, I'll have that in time for the next board meeting. But it is a sustainable answer. It'll last for years with much lower maintenance and other things. The water treatment plant, you had to run a special tool in, I don't know what it costs the district now, to take the dirt out of the water. Well, if water was so clean, they kept having to work to get the chemicals down and everything for getting it cleaned up. But the water, the dirt that we need to take out, which a wetland can do, the settlement ponds are what they used to be the system, but they're not adequate anymore. We can take the dirt out of the water, what little there is in it. And most of it, of course, what we're trying to take out is water that is salvageable from the water treatment plant for aluminum and the chemicals. We can do both with wetlands, and we can do it with a much lower capital cost and a much lower maintenance cost. So constructed wetlands can save this district millions of dollars, meet recyclable goals with the 500 acre foot you put on for the concrete plant, meet NPDES permits, you won't have to get rid of it, and the savings in operation and capital costs will easily pay for the permit costs over the years. I don't expect anything more will come up on that. And talking to the people in Reading with the state that enforce these rules, I found that they're very interested in wetlands and the application of them, and they want to know exactly what I'm going to be proposing for their information. Whether you have any ears here or not, and we've had some rather poor designed wetlands proposed to the district that had extremely high costs and everything else, and they were not a true wetland. They were something else. I never did quite figure that out. I didn't vote for any of them, I don't think. One of them I did, because I got taken in on it. And that's when I started working harder and harder to find information for this. So this is my project. I have more than 60 hours into this of research, talking to engineers in a couple of different places, getting research off the internet, backing it up with other stuff. So to me, this is a very obvious program. And this, believe it or not, folks, this is the future, and this is the newest way of recycling water in this country. They're doing it all over the world. You can go to Saudi Arabia, you can go to Israel, which it actually has enough surplus water. Now they can sell it, and they're finally looking at wetlands, and they want to get caught up with the United States, the United Kingdom, and the use of it. So thank you very much for listening to me, and next month I will have some figures.
Any board members have any comments or questions?
I'm not accepting any questions. I'll expect if you have some questions, you can come around and ask me, and I'll write it down. I think the meeting's long enough.
Does the public, anybody in the public would like to speak to this topic?
Thank you, Lauren Harvey. Thank myself, yeah. But I'd like to thank Mr. Kellogg. Whether it ever flies or not, I think everybody in this room can agree that he's passionate about it and that he's worked hard on it. And I'd publicly like to thank him for it. We do appreciate it, whether it flies or not. But I'd just like to say one thing. I think the board is interested in having a Hummer, and the fact that you're proposing a Blazer, they're never going to put air in those tires and test drive it. But thank you for putting in your time.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you for your comment. Any other public would like to speak to this? In that case, we're moving on to item number 6D, resolution concurring the nominations for ACWA President and Vice President. Manager Barber?
Yeah, I think it's I usually don't put these on the agenda unless a board member requests them. But in this case, I've got personal experience with both of these people. Brent Hasty has been recently appointed to the Region 2 board. I worked with him a little bit. He's well-spoken, and I think it's important for ACWA to have a Northern California agricultural type perspective on its as a leader of ACWA. And it's not often we get a Northern California representative willing to step up. It's been quite a few years, I think. So I thought it was appropriate to ask you if you're willing to support his president or his vice president attempt in the upcoming years. And the other one is Kathleen Teagues. She is from Southern California, Cucamonga Valley Water District. I've met her on a couple of occasions. In my years with ACWA, I've never seen somebody put so much effort in trying to understand all of the ACWA member agencies' issues and how they operate. She's been in the North State multiple times to region meetings, to tours up here. She's got a lot of passion, and she would put a lot of good effort, and I'm confident that she's going to listen to the needs of the North. So I would recommend that you adopt a resolution for both of them.
Can you go back to your resolution back there? So what's our motion going to be? Adopt resolution, make a motion to adopt resolution 2015-10?
Yep.
Oh, 08, I'm sorry, we were on the wrong page there for a second. Okay, 08, and okay, so they are
Two separate resolutions.
because of the two separate people.
Yes.
Okay, so make a motion to adopt resolution numbers 2015-08 and 2015-10, concurring the nominations of the Yuba County Water Agency Board Director Member Brett Hastings to the position of Vice President and Cucamonga Valley Water District Board of Director Member Kathleen Teagues to the position of President.
I'd like to comment on it.
Let me second it.
I can comment. Normally, we get a list of candidates. Isn't there other people running for these offices?
There probably is, but we don't normally get a list of other candidates for this. We get.
I can remember having like 3 candidates for
That was
office.
because individual people decided to send mailers out to various districts.
So these are the only 2 people that sent out mailers?
And we're only concurring nominations.
Yes.
Pardon?
Yeah, we're not voting for them, we're concurring their nomination so that they're on the ballot.
And then they'll.
And if somebody else sends us their bid for nomination?
The votes are taken at the ACWA conference?
Yes.
So basically, if they haven't, nobody else has sent us a request to vote for them?
No, correct.
And by the way, you referred to the man as being an ag. He may have been raised on a farm, but right now, according to his write-up, he's actually got a rental yard for, what do you call them?
He's got a storage complex.
Yeah, storage complex he rents out. That's where his income's coming from.
Right, but he's got an understanding in the agricultural community through his work with the Yuba County Water Agency.
When I was living and working and teaching in that particular area, I did a lot of work with the Yuba College group, and where he lives is actually called Arboga. And I did a lot of farming in that particular area and harvesting. I met him a couple of times, and he's very dynamic, really into it. In fact, I think he's been involved in building all those new homes you see off of Highway 70, and if you go south of Yuba City, Olivehurst, and areas also.
The ones that'll get flooded out when it
The
rains.
ones that are gonna have 20 foot of water standing on them sometime. The FEMA are gonna rebuild all of them.
I just want to comment, I'm on the nomination committee for Cal LAFCO, and Yuba County Water Agency is up for several awards. And so they are very active.
Okay, any other comments from the director? Any comments from the public? There being none, I'll call for the roll call vote, please.
Vice President Corolla,
Yes?
Director Duncan,
Yes?
Director Fletcher,
Yes.
Director Kellogg,
Yes.
President Hunt.
Yes. To be clear, motion passed 5-0. Let's skip to item 6F because it's so similar. Maybe we can kick this one out right away and then we'll go back to E. The Aqua Region 2 Board election for 2016-17.
Yeah, this is your chance to, this is the vote, right?
Correct.
This is it.
So this is the vote to continue service on the Aqua Region 2 Board. And there's no new ones, I don't think. I worked with all these folks. They're all dedicated and smart, and they do put in the effort. I have a meeting about every couple months on the Aqua Region 2 Board. I've served on a couple committees that caused me to have either phone conference calls or sometimes drive to Sacramento. I think it's worth my effort to continue to serve on this board. It provides us good interaction and contact and probably a little more direct input into Aqua staff.
So down here, candidates for board members, max of 5 choices.
You can.
But breast hate,
You can vote to concur.
They're
okay.
already on the top.
Actually not.
That's the recommended slate. Where
There's a
you can vote.
vacant on top.
I know, but
Yeah.
you can't, there's not enough to fill the vacancy.
And what will happen with Brett Hasty if he gets on the vice president? He's automatic, he can still, I was gonna say, won't that create a second vacancy there?
I think you'll be called to serve.
There's 6 names
No.
down below.
I know, but there's, if you look at the top, Eric Larrabee's the chair, vice chair, and then the board members, you can't have them all.
Yeah, Brett Hasty's in there again. So we don't need to actually pick,
I see what happened.
we don't need to pick anybody in particular.
Well,
You just select number one.
We could.
Nominating committee recommended slate. Just concur with the region nominating committee recommended slate.
Okay.
Oh, pick the top ones up here. These are the ones that are nominated. And here's the ones that they're recommending.
Yes.
So do we have a motion on this?
Make a motion to concur with the nominating committee's recommended slate as presented.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? Comments from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Passes 5-0. We're going to go back to item 6E, transmittal fiscal year tax rate to Butte County. You teased us with this last month. I thought it was done. Now we're
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't we?
No, that was the,
That was
for the delinquent accounts.
Delinquent accounts.
This is for
I
our,
thought we saw the right, all the numbers recently. No?
delinquent accounts went on the tax roll. This is for the Davis Kremsky loan. What we have to do is we have to calculate a tax rate that is included on the
Oh,
tax roll.
yeah,
So
yeah.
when they calculate the value of the home.
Yes.
It comes out to the right amount, so when they submit that to us, we have the correct amount of money to pay the debt. So we go
Could you
to-
bump that up?
So are you happy with the .021 cents per 100?
It is what it is. It's a
Okay.
calculation that just is what it is.
We probably don't need a whole lot of discussion on this. Why don't we just make a motion to adopt resolution number 2015-09, resolution transmitting district's annual assessment rate to the Butte County Auditor Controller.
Second.
Thank you, Seth. And I like that. We can't do anything about the calculation.
Sure we can have an hour-long discussion about it.
Anything? Public, that must be awfully exciting for you out here. Roll call vote, please.
Director Perla?
Yes.
Director Duncan?
Yes.
Director Fletcher?
Yes.
Director Kellogg?
Yes.
President Hunt?
Yes. Motion passes 5-0.
You've been demoted. You're
Item
not vice
6G,
president.
Yeah, I guess I'm not. I know, really.
we're going to consider removing that. Manager Barber, tell us what kind of a worldwide tour is going on there.
Talking about the tour. My report.
At least just joking, why we're talking about it.
We're talking about moving to September.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to be here for a couple weeks. And we have an opportunity to move the meeting if you want my presence there. I won't be here over that time frame, but I suggested to the Finance Committee that an option is to keep the date of September 19th? 16th, sorry. And consider the budget with that regularly scheduled meeting. Kevin will carry the day, and my services will not be missed.
Will be missed.
So keep the day, but we're just basically going to dedicate the meeting to budget.
That's a suggestion, yes.
Okay, because I'm gone the 18th through the 28th of September. 18th, yes, through the 28th.
Since if we're not going to move it, we don't have to do anything, right?
We wouldn't need to do a thing.
Right.
We're just considering anybody.
What would did you say we would move it to the 28th possibly?
No.
No, I'm gone the 18th through the 28th.
Okay, you're gone the 18th.
So if anything, if we were going to move it, we'd have to go probably towards the earlier part of the month or at the very end.
What you're talking about is having a light load and just hitting the budget, get the budget approved. And then our major focus will be on that with Kevin.
Were we going to have a special meeting on, we have in the past, haven't we, had a special meeting on the budget?
So we're not going to, let's cover it in the regular schedule.
Okay.
Because we won't have much other business.
Yes.
So,
Will we be able to look at the budget before we meet to approve it?
Okay. I'll get it out probably a week in advance, if not more.
So we're still thinking about being on the 16th? Is that what we're thinking?
It's going to be the 16th.
that seems to be the way we're leaning.
15th?
No.
16th.
16th, yeah.
Just leaving it as is.
Third Wednesday.
That would work for you, Chef. all
Because
right?
George, when are you going to be gone from when to when?
12th, returning to the 30th. Leaving the 12th, returning to the 30th.
Okay, so that really just kind of
If you want me
pushes us back
here, you have to push it
to
real
considering the 9th or the 2nd. And that's only a week or two away.
And that messes everything up.
No, I think we should leave it on the 16th. Anybody want to
I'll agree with that.
change it? All right, bon voyage.
I'm good.
We're not taking any action on that. We already had our board recess, committee reports, oral report, Water Conservation Committee. Director Fletcher, would you like to provide us information about that meeting?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. We met as a water conservation group on Thursday, August the 13th at 9 o'clock in the morning. And we asked, on behalf of a couple of the other members, I asked George if he would give us an update on the water supply and compared to the other water districts and other happening storage levels. And as he always does, he did an excellent job and really brought us up to date where we're at. This particular one is 76% full. And I'd like to thank George for doing that. And then moving on down, we did water conservation program update. And he talked about a bunch of different things there. And then I asked him if he would talk about pipe, because that was just shortly after the Peterson Road thing. I had a couple of the board, committee members that asked me about that. And as you know, we have 60 miles of steel pipe that's still in the ground, and some of it's pretty doggone old. And he did a very good job, I thought, of bringing us up to date on where we're at that particular one. Talked a little bit about the zinc orthophosphate, which we just approved by 4,000 gallons. And I found out a long time ago that what we were doing with that is to help maintain steel pipe, not only for the district, but if you have a lot of galvanized pipe like I have, it helps you in that different category. Yeah, he did a great job putting that across. At least that's what the committee members told me. And we talked about community outreach with Tony Dale, and she's talking about that here. And then we had an update on the water saving devices, program spray nozzles, low flow toilets, and those are all been used, I guess.
The toilets?
Yeah.
Most of them.
Most
Room for
Here.
a few more applications.
Then we wound up with a update on the operational conservation efforts handled and an outdoor landscape videos about that. And they're able to use, right?
Right, we had a new one up. I was just recording the new landscaping video about gardening with watering only once every 2 or 3 weeks. And that one's out there first.
And our next meeting is going to be on Thursday, October the 8th at 9 a.m. Any other comments that you would like, George, or Ward, or Bill?
Yeah, I'll make some.
Huh?
I've got some. I have some of my own.
Okay,
notes.
good. Go ahead.
One of the things that was pointed out that the treatment plant was doing 6 million gallons a day. Normal is 10 million gallons, so there's 40% reduced, at least for the charge for water in the district. On the leaks, I've got here 5-year contract steel pipe. Ever since we lost the pipe over on Pearson above the hardware store, that was a concrete pipe, wasn't it?
There was steel with a water line.
Or do we test those too?
Well, we haven't, but that happened after our last test. We'll consider that, adding those in this next go around.
Okay. I also just revealed at the meeting that I am no longer asking for funds for ACWA because people have told me that if they have to pay money for it, they'll either quit or they feel it should be free and so forth. And I didn't find anybody to support me, so I'm withdrawing from charging money for ACWA.
How much were you asking for?
Oh, $2 a month.
Wow, and we only pay 10 cents? Boy, you were gonna make money off of that.
Yeah, Bill.
Yeah, right, we'll pay back.
Whoa.
Yeah, big money there.
And that's against the rules.
You might want to see George's thing about charging for cost of service. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting, wouldn't it?
That was, you were a little out of skewed there.
I was curious why Mickey got moved out of the office up to the yard. I found that out because I came into the office for something else, and I've been telling a fellow at my church that was upset about ACWA, and he couldn't get the readings right. And I said, well, you go talk to Mickey. She's the last girl sitting and she's in charge of the computers, and there's a man sitting there now. And I was told that Mickey's office was up with I thought that was sort of odd. She's up there with all those guys, and I think there's still an office desk empty in the main office. And Doug reported on a lunch he went to at NORMAC meeting and enjoyed and thought it was great. So that's what my minutes have me that aren't on the minutes that were given.
Thank you. We're going to move to item 2, Finance Committee, Director Duncan.
Okay, we saved the district $200 by having 2 meetings in one day. So we're being a twofer, right? So, and like I said earlier, we did have some public here, which is unusual, and we did both. And basically, on the budget, we had reviewed the budget before and asked for some corrections, and Kevin has done that, and so that's going to be ready for us in September. The final, and then. On the ad hoc thing, you got what we got tonight on the rate.
Getting them both at the same time, 2 and 3.
Yeah,
right.
But I'm like Doug, I'd like to see a hard copy. I didn't understand that for beans, Washington. I don't absorb things that fast.
Right, well, it's like you said, it's just being introduced,
right.
And it's not finalized, so don't memorize any figures.
No,
and say,
I just want to see.
Say later on.
Don't start repeating figures to the public.
Right.
What I want to do is understand it. I didn't say anything specific.
Yeah, I'm just telling you that.
As far as somebody giving me directions not to speak to the public, so that doesn't carry water.
Don't speak about numbers to the public, Bill.
Saying, don't put the figures down because they're not finalized.
Yes.
Oh, I understand that.
Okay, well, I wanted to make sure you did.
Talk to the public all you want.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I ask.
All right.
You can say anything you want. You're on the committee.
Nope, that was covered plenty.
Okay.
Admin and personnel was the last committee that we had. Director Corolla and myself. We had several topics on it. One was discussing the public members of the PID committees with regard to participation requirements. The committee gave direction to management to make potential changes on the policy and bring it to the board in September. And then you'll have an opportunity to look at some little tinkering and fine-tuning that we did. Next topic was a review of Paradise Irrigation District records management and retention policy. Whoa. This thing is what, 18 years old or so? And it feels like it's like 108 years old. It is one of the worst written policies and procedures. It is part mission statement. It didn't know what it was. It looks like 3 or 4 different styles of writers were involved with 3 or 4 different typewriters. I'm sure nobody had a word processor back then.
I thought it was stone.
But anyhow, it needs some real attention. The reason I brought it up for discussion at the admin meeting is because of I wanted to make sure that we were keeping up with the electronic world. What is our policy in regard to emails and retention, and how do we keep them and where? What is our policy in regard to district-owned cell phones and the text messages that are on them? Or even a privately owned cell phone used in business in the district where the person gets reimbursed for that cell phone. Are we going to be keeping those type records? So we gave direction and to get started on basically just a recreation with current law, current terminology, and get us a decent policy we can look at, and we'll bring it to the board at that time. We may have to meet on it once again to see where it is. Then the third topic was a discussion on creating a wellness program. This is something, well, actually, Director Corolla, you're going to be better adept at explaining this than I. Would you care to what you brought up and then what Kevin found and where we're going from there?
Well, we're just in the preliminary stages, so what started me in it was a workout program or getting into one of the health clubs for our employees, making a healthier, happier employee. And Kevin took it a step farther, found some wellness programs, some data to back it up, how it affects insurance and profitability, and also at the same time the numbers that show healthier, happier worker, less injuries, so forth like that. So Kevin really took it, 10 steps beyond what I had, and he's still working on some stuff. So we're just beginning the process right now, and in maybe a month or two we're going to have something to bring to the board.
Yeah,
and then
there'll be multiple steps. Kevin is now going to be requesting other government entities for comparable wellness programs already in place that have been vetted and tried and true, and are cost savings, so they have records of it, and so we can see we don't have to reinvent the wheel from scratch. And then we're planning on holding meetings with employees to get employee input on this. And then, as Seth said, we would reconvene with the committee to discuss what we have discovered and found and comments and input, and then see if we want to pursue taking something like this to the board for consideration. And that's where we are. That was the end of our...
I want to ask some questions.
Okay.
You talked about committee, public members on committees. What are your proposals?
We're working on it.
Well, you must have something written down in your minutes about what you're looking at.
I do not.
No, just that the old rules were archaic, so they needed to be rewritten. So
Yeah, I think maybe there's some pretty minor changes in it. You'll see it coming to the board.
It's not really ready.
Minor changes might be to you, it might be major to somebody.
It could be, Bill. You'll see it when it comes to the board.
Yeah, it's not ready for presentation.
You brought it to the board tonight, and you're not telling us what you didn't.
We had a preliminary meeting, we made no decisions.
Thank you, Bill, for interrupting. We're going to move to the general manager's report, item 9. George?
Okay, on my written report, I have a couple things to add. Just a reminder, the town bids for the road repair in Pearson, I believe, are due September 3rd, so we'll know shortly after that what the costs are going to be associated with that. And we are in contact with our insurance provider and gotten assurances that we're covered for damages caused by the leak, but not the cost of repairing the leak. Our distribution management, Keith and Jim, are actively working on prepping crews for the work on Pearson Road. We had a meeting with the town about traffic control, so we're working those issues out. And they're out potholing this week, and possibly next week we could start laying some main line. So that process and planning is going well. Pipes in the yard, things are moving forward. I want to give props to the crews on the Harrison to Mill project. Again, that was 4,000, almost 5,000 feet of pipe in with lots of services. Gotten little to none negative public comment. The crews have done a really good job out there. I've inspected that one a lot on a regular basis because it's up the street from my house. And again, that's a really good project. We'll bring you some numbers coming forward, but to be able to get 5,000 feet of main line in without having to pay the cost of rehabilitating the pavement and repaving trenches is a huge cost savings to the district.
Mm-hmm.
I did a seminar, did a couple of webinars this week. I did one at Director Kellogg's sent me recommendation-wise on treatment, and he referred to something about irrigation. Although I think in your presentation, Bill, you hinted that irrigation will take care of all of the DCBMs. That's not what I got out of the presentation, but it was interesting. It was an interesting training.
Oh, good you went. So I wasn't talking about all of them. I was just talking about the one we have.
I went to one on state rebates. State is issuing rebates about $24 million for toilet replacements, $100 a toilet, residential toilet replacement, and $2 a square foot for turf replacement. This is funded by
In residential?
State. Residential.
$2 a square foot, wow.
$2 a square foot. It's funded.
So I can replace my brown lawn with some nice green turf going in there? Mm-hmm. And they're going to pay...
No, some nice brown rock, but yeah.
Replace your brown lawn with something else.
Some kind of color.
How about, did AquaTurf qualify?
Probably.
Yeah, they're going big in Southern California.
Yeah, but there's only 30 million, and they said that it's probably already gone.
Well, I don't know about that. They're trying to direct half of it to disadvantaged communities. If that doesn't go out there, they'll release some more to everybody else after some point in October. So we've put it on our website. It's saveourwaterrebates.com. Any of our customers can go there. There's a process to go through as far as bond rebates. There's also a process for our local landscape constructors, designers, contractors. They can actually sign up for the program and administer these rebates as part of their reconstruction and design of a person's yard. So we're providing the links on our website on saveourwater.com to let people know that they're available. It's a state program, you got to follow the rules. Supposedly they're supposed to have forms at Home Depot and Lowe's for the toilet side of things. But nonetheless, we've had a lot of people asking us if we're going to do toilets and if we're going to do turf rebates. And at this point, they have something available if they can get in line as quickly as possible.
A friend of mine in Southern California applied for it, and they finally just quit because there were so many rules to follow that it just wasn't feasible.
There's quite a bit. I mean, you got to take pictures a certain way before and after, and measurements, and it's not super simple. I got a notice. Oh, first, I talked a little bit. I'd sent you guys out earlier some legislation that came through as budget trailer bills. So I kind of highlighted the biggest one of concern in my report. Dustin and I kind of tag team on those if you have any questions. But I also wanted to state that ACWA sent out an alert today, a couple times today, that they're hearing that when the state legislature comes back into session, which isn't in session for very long, that there's going to be somebody proposing a statewide tax on water bills.
On water what?
On water bills.
On water bills.
So, statewide tax.
On water bills.
On water bills.
Well, let's not use bills. We will be working.
You can send them out as flyers.
To oppose that because every dollar they raise it is another dollar on our bill that will relate to us and not the state.
That was one of the reasons I asked that question on the Board of Equalization on water rates, because see, they're trying to get in and they have some control where we have to pay an interest of $1,000 for our water rights. We're just trying to get in there. Can you visualize what a dollar tax per water bill would be for the state? It would be mind-boggling. That's what they're going after.
They're calling it a public goods charge.
Because
it's not a tax, so it doesn't have to be voted on.
You remember the meeting that I attended in March, and I gave a report on it a couple times. The state, it doesn't, I think you agree with this, at least those people there at the top of the heap as far as the state water resources, they consider every drop of water in the state of California their water, public water, is what they do.
Well, that's true.
And that's true, see, so why in the hell don't they tax it?
You got to be careful at 9:30 at night. Your right is called usufructuary.
You can what?
Usufructuary.
Well, yeah.
It's a legal term. You have a right to use. You don't have a right to possess.
Possess, use. Okay.
That's a water right.
Water right. Use, not possess.
Usufructuary.
That's not really, yeah, that word's gonna lose meaning in here in just a couple seconds. You say it 2 or 3 more times.
Yeah, I know.
We're gonna be deleting minutes. We're gonna be voting on deleting minutes.
Okay. Any other comments for general manager's report?
I guess that's it. Is there any law against me buying more water and selling it to somebody else and making money?
There is rules in the district that you can't sell your water outside of your property line.
Oh, really?
So you have to be able to.
You can make all the lemonade you want on your property, though.
That's exactly right. These little lemonade stands are proof of that.
Yeah.
I thought they made those
on your old property.
You can bottle it. We'll see if you can get through the ranks to legally bottle it and sell it. But you can't sell it to your neighbor.
Okay. We're going to go on to the legal report. Justin?
I have 3 topics to update you on, and of course I'll take questions. First is BDCP. You recall that's the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. It's the tunnels. It's now been repackaged, and maybe they hired a community relations firm called California Water Fix now.
California what?
Water Fix.
Water Fix.
Like a drug you need to fix.
Basically the same project, except they've severed. They're going to build the tunnels without doing all the ecosystem restoration. Yet they're using basically the same environmental document that assumed all these environmental enhancements that offset the environmental impacts of the tunnels. So now they're getting rid of the environmental enhancements and only analyzing the tunnels. yet using the same environmental analysis. So it's a very suspect EIR. But there, you'll recall the district is part of the Sac Valley Water Users. It's a large coalition of groups, cost-sharing joint defense arrangement. Myself and about 5 other attorneys that collectively have kind of reviewed the document. We divided the workload. Remember, it was 39,000 and some pages, so we divided the workload, prepared comments, worked with consultants, modelers, and such to assist with preparing comments, and we submitted those. Since the document is now being recirculated, we need to dust off those comments, update where necessary. They're not going to change that substantially, I can tell you that right now. But the reason I bring this up, I think soon, maybe even at your September board meeting, there's going to be a request for an additional cash contribution to fund that joint defense effort. I don't think it's going to be a large sum of money. Do you happen to know how much we spent? I bet you it was less than 10,000 last time.
Less than 10.
It would be much less than 10 this time. Second item is also an item I think we'll need to discuss at your September board meeting, and that is lifting curtailments. There's a real possibility we could start getting precipitation, and hopefully this will happen. And the water board lags and the curtailments remain in effect. And we need some direction from the board on what to do if that happens. So sounds like I'll work with Kevin and Georgiana to get that agendized properly, and we can discuss that in September. The last item, South Feather Water and Power Agency, kind of one of your sister agencies in submitting opposition comments on the urban water conservation regulations. They haven't been meeting their 36%.
Surprise!
So just hot off the press, they received an information order, which is very strongly worded, kind of a real poke in the eye, and they want everything the district's been doing, the number of complaints. I mean, there's about 3 pages of very detailed information they want, and they're threatening fines. And so this is just in response to the first month, which would have been June. So,
what did they use?
I think in June they were 26%, and in July they were 21%. So now they're going the wrong way, or maybe 24%. But they're definitely going the wrong way.
What about that water that they're selling? Is that going against them?
No.
No, that doesn't even count.
This is use water.
So, you know, I'm glad that PID is not in this category, because it looks like it's going to be a headache in trying to explain and raise legal defenses and such. But I wanted to make you aware that there are others that aren't quite meeting the bar, and we'll be responding to that.
Ready isn't.
Well, and surprisingly, the state's a little more.
I heard the Reading wasn't meeting it either.
Oh, there's a whole bunch of them that aren't meeting it.
That's why Mike got off this.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, that makes us feel good about what our clients have done responding to this.
We were at about 41. Something in the 40s?
46?
Yeah, it was 47, wasn't it?
47.
47 in July.
Yeah.
Maybe we could sell some of that reduction
credits.
South Feather for some cash.
Since 1951, I've been at the top 20%. Last month, I saved 76%.
You're gonna mess that one up. Coming up here real soon.
76%. Kevin's the only one that hates
Let's
that.
keep moving. We're doing real good on time. Let's.
Okay. Thank you.
I had a question for George. Those little balls that they're putting on the reservoirs in Southern California? Well, we would never do that, right?
To prevent evaporation?
We don't have a case where it would pay for the cost. They have much hotter summers, and it basically keeps evaporation down.
Oh, okay.
I mean, can't be in a drinking water where all of ours are covered, so.
You know, I would think.
Make fishing kind of hard.
Kill the fish. If we do some of the
Absolutely.
weather forecasters, I was at a meeting where some of them that are pretty highly respected was giving a presentation. But let's say we do start getting some very heavy rains in September, October. Our irrigation will basically stop. Stuff we're even doing now, you know, Gazelle.
Yeah.
Water's gonna run out of the ground, so.
That's the $1 million.
That's gotta be a pretty big savings right there.
Yeah.
Because even, you know, when I was using lots of water over all those years, then it just started raining, I just stopped using water.
Mr. President, can we move on to the next topic, please?
Staff and building reports.
I have some questions. Meter shop replaced 70 fireflies. How much do those things cost?
$100.
You sure? $100?
Yeah, that's very close.
I thought they were $25 or something. So that's 7 grand?
Yep.
How many have we replaced totally so far?
The graph going back there shows on a monthly basis is pretty high right now.
Yeah, I know. Okay, but can you show that in that graph? Put it in dollars?
Just add zeros to it.
$100, it'll be pretty easy to do it.
Just add 2 zeros.
Yeah, 6,000, 5,000, 4,000. So you take, it doesn't work, I can't do it in my
There was a problem with the fireflies. We're pretty much aware of that. So we're going to be replacing probably all of them by the time things are done. So to keep pointing it out, we know we have a problem with them.
Yeah, I like pointing that out, don't I, Sal?
That's
down in the summary sheet, it says 3 new utility workers officially started February the 2nd. They are working out very nicely. But what is our staff now? I understood 3 utility workers left last month, and you weren't going to replace them, and I was wondering what these leaks how are we doing on labor?
I'm sorry, I missed your question.
Oh, it's on February 2nd, it said on the summary, 3 new utility workers officially started. And I thought, okay, what's the staff now? I know last month.
We're down 3.
We're down 3 utility workers?
Yes. And we have 5 full temporary utility workers.
We still have 5 temporaries then?
Yes.
So you have enough crew with the blowout on Pearson and everything to get the work done?
Yes.
I
The reason
noticed-
we have proceeded with hiring the 3, they also dropped off over time, is we're in production mode, and when you bring on a new person, it takes training, it takes drive training effort, it takes a lot of effort to bring someone up to speed on our practices and our work practices. So generally, we bring those on board in the fall to winter, so we can get them up to speed so they're productive come construction season. So I've already spoke with Keith when he returned from vacation. We're working on getting ready to ramp up advertising those positions, and we'll start the hiring process probably in October.
Okay, thank you. And then I saw the crew started on the thing right away, marked it out, did everything, and then one day we had almost a full crew there with equipment and everything, and they didn't do anything, went home. And I didn't see any pipe in the yard. Now we have pipe in the yard so they could get to work on the Pearson Road.
I have to correct you. We didn't have a whole crew that did there's a whole process to laying pipeline, and we're actually working on video to educate the public, and you guys will get to see that. But we're potholing right now. We have to identify all the utility conflicts in the area, so we know where they are in the ground before we start laying the pipe, and we can plan accordingly. So they were digging potholes, small holes with the back truck to find gas lines, any power lines, drainage lines, so we know the depth of those and where they're located. So as they're digging, they can dig appropriately to miss those in the appropriate clearance.
Well, I saw what I thought were potholes, little squares, but you're telling me there's circles out there over where the other people have marked their
They're
lines?
squares because they're jacked out and square, but yes.
Yeah, I didn't see anything new, at any rate at the time.
We might want to refer to our director's handbook, which points out that we are not the monitors of day-to-day operations. We are the facilitators of what goes on in this room right here. So monitoring day-to-day operations and watching what they're doing out on the streets and then questioning people about it. It's just not part of our job. So, I'm tired of, I'm so tired, I gotta tell you, Bill, so tired of hearing how you're monitoring what's going on day to day in the district. That is not your job.
Well,
that is clearly spelled out.
So, well, if you want to go on, I got all my questions now.
Getting reports on it, that's a good thing. Asking questions is a good thing, but monitoring it the way you do is not.
We will move on. Doug, do you have anything you'd like to bring up?
I was just going to ask, I'm not monitoring day-to-day. Do you get, on figuring out all that's out, I agree with what you were doing, do you get much help from USA?
Oh, yeah, we work hand in hand with this. And it also slowed down the process. PG&E has new regulations, so when we're around a certain size gas line, it used to just be high pressure, now it's all, I think it's 2 inches and larger. We actually have to wait until there's a PG&E rep there while we watch.
Now they're doing it, I have a couple of friends that do that. And if, it's USA, if they tell you where to dig, and you dig there, and there's a pipe underneath there, you're not as liable as you would be if you hadn't used it.
Well, if you want the education, they tell you where the pipe is. If you hit that pipe anywhere within 2 feet of either side, you're liable.
Yeah.
If it's outside of 2 feet of their markings, it's on them.
That's on
It's on the same with us.
Yeah. And we very seldom ever hit them at off of 2 feet.
Okay, drill pipes later. Anything else? Okay. Larry?
No, I have no questions.
Steph?
I'm done.
I have none. Are we going to consider accepting the staff and billing reports?
I move that we accept the staff report.
Second. I don't think we need a...
Does that include, I've got other pages here, I had questions on page 76. Does that include that?
I don't know, is it a staff or billing report?
Yep, staff report.
Staff report.
Question?
Okay, thank you. B Reservoir Replacement Project, it says here, financial staff discuss drought-related impacts on revenue to ensure the district has the capability to repay the SRF loan. What's the SRF?
State revolving fund loan. So I worked with the state to prove that even with the downgrade in our revenue, that there was still capacity to meet debt service covenants when it came to on the design portion of the loan.
Thank you. And then dam intake structure and pipeline inspection. The draft scope of this work inspection project will be reviewed by the district's new consulting engineer. Do we have a new consulting engineer?
Yeah, you approved a new engineer for our dam safety inspection requirements.
Oh, it's the same engineer then?
Yes.
Okay. It says on NPDES permit to Magalia Reservoir, is sequence for July affluent. The limit is 3. What is affluent?
Affluent. That's what flows into the Magalia Reservoir.
Okay, what was, it said it exceeded the 3 UGL.
Yep, micrograms per liter.
And what was
we
it?
Registered 4.4 micrograms per liter.
Is that dirt? What is affluent?
That is the 4.4 is the
turbidity or
no, it's not turbidity.
Would that be suspended zone?
we exceeded what we're supposed to exceed. That's probably a clarification enough.
It's either aluminum or it's dichloroaluminum. It's got to be the aluminum. It's got to be the aluminum.
And the 3 is where we're supposed to be.
We're supposed to be under 3 micrograms per liter, and we were delivering 4.4. It's got to be the aluminum.
Any other questions, Brett?
I was just looking at my notes here.
Is that maybe somewhat related to the switchover?
Sorry?
Is that somewhat maybe related to the switchover from chlorine gas to the solid or the liquid, I mean, that we're doing now?
No.
That, okay. I didn't think we should have any problem with that because they said that was pretty sweet transition, so.
They say they increased dechlorination chemical feed rate as a potential solution.
You'll have to ask Jim.
Okay.
I'm just guessing at this point.
Recreation, U.S. Forest Service still reviewing an updated lake operations plan, gazebo as built, accessibility for the gazebo and so forth. I was curious to see the plans we've submitted to them at maybe the next lake committee meeting, plans we've committed to the U.S. Forest Service.
Yep, I can confirm to the next subcommittee meeting.
Okay, thank you. And then the watershed, I've got something online in here. Shaded fuel removal project, East Miguelia Reservoir is in environmental compliance process. PG&E offered to help pay for archaeological record search, where the cost may come out of the grant. It is unclear if a registered forester needs to be hired to finalize the CEQA. So, have you been able to figure out whether you have to hire a forester or not?
We did hire a forester, but the forester couldn't do the archaeological, so then we had to get payment, had to pay to get the archaeological work done, because there was it's a long story. I've been working with Callie Jane on it. If your project is funded by CAL FIRE, then you can submit a request to the historic, I can't remember the outfit, but you can get the archaeological report from the state. But since CAL FIRE wasn't funding this, it was coming from private sources, we had to end up paying somebody to do it, because even if we requested it, it still couldn't be done without us paying to have it done. So that work is scheduled. We are proceeding with it. We're running out of time. I left a question with Dustin about exemptions. We think we're going to be categorically exempt, and if we can file that paperwork with the county and the state clearinghouse and go to work right away, we should be able to get the work done, but we're running out of time.
Okay, thank you. And on page 78, it has signs, and the only one I have problems with is it says no camping, fires, or barbecues, and yet we have fire pits in our, a recreation area at the lake. Is this, do we want to really say except, you can have them there or something on the sign?
I believe that sign is for North Lake.
This is for North Lake, not for our recreation area. Okay, thank you. I think that's it. I turn a couple of pages here to make sure.
Okay, all those in favor, we already had the motion and second, I believe. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. We accept that. That's 5-0. Treasurer's report, please.
Yeah, my rent report. This is for 6/30/2015, not for 7/31. So this was the year into the fiscal year. Obviously, again, these could change with a few tweaks when they get in there and really start digging into the year and closing. But currently, $3.2.5 million. All of our debt services paid for the year, which is good. It should be paid for the year. One thing to look at on that $1.7 million is that is paying off a DWR loan this past year. So next year, our debt service budget is actually $1.1 million. So that's a pat on the back for the district.
What page are you on, Kevin?
I'm on page 91.
I see a 1.7 million figure.
That's for
Bullet point number 2.
Analysis.
Right at the top, I see $1,200,000.
deed service analysis.
Number 2, item number 2.
He's circling it on.
Number 2. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Our service fee is on budget. Consumption is actually lagging behind. And I want to kind of make a statement on the consumption and why the drought has affected us so much. Not so much in this current year, which it did. $300,000 is a lot of money, especially when we're working on a very, very tight budget and making a less impact on the community. When we last did our rate increase, we knew we were going to be very tight at the end of this last budget year. But the one thing is it also affect all going forward budgets. All of our estimates that we went forward out 5 years, we assumed that we'd be collecting the same amount of consumption revenue. Now we have to adjust that. So now that $300,000 is actual loss, and now we have budget losses of $300,000 that we estimated we were going to be collecting. So we have to make up that revenue over that time period because now we're drawing down our cash reserves in those budget years. So that's why it's a compounding effect, because we're not going to see that revenue come up next budget year. We're assuming that that decrease in that consumption is going to continue out over the next 3, 5.
Might even go further down.
Right, so it's a compounding effect. So you have 300 here and a 300 here, now it's 600, 900, a million too. That's lost over your time period.
The strange thing about this business, if we have lots of rain next year, it'll be like a drought.
That's right.
On cash flow.
Absolutely, and that's why this rate is so critical for our business, is because it models our costs. So we're very fixed. So it models our costs so that, as I know Director Fletcher likes, you're guaranteeing you the money coming in no matter what the weather conditions are. We're going to have highs and lows, but they're going to be very minimal. So that's why it's
Well, let me interject. Normally, whatever normal is, which is never normal, but anyway, whatever normal is, we generally have $500,000 left over at the end of the year. Money in, money out. You know, I noticed reading in the paper, you mentioned that we had a $7 million and we're going to have an expenditure of $7.1. So instead of having our $500,000 left over, we're actually losing 6. Is that what we're losing, or 9, or 3?
Cumulative, it'll be 6. So,
6, yeah.
So you're losing that over the cumulative budgets.
So we will not have any left over.
That's right.
In fact, we'll be 100,000 in the hole.
Correct. Okay. Just to let you know too that there's many articles out there, just to kind of give you an idea that we're in the same boat as a lot of districts out there in California. The Chico ER just had an article about the big ones, the East Bay Mud, and about the Metropolitan Water District, what the Palm Springs, whatever the one in Palm Springs is, and they're all falling short of revenue. And they're all going to have to make a decision based on what their revenue is decision. Did you get that?
I could have asked this during the rate increase, but I didn't. But you know, the rate increase that you're speculating in, George David actually report on this evening.
Rate change. Yeah, I was going to say.
That is taking into consideration when we get our projects going, we're going to need 10 mil.
Correct.
For the water treatment plant, and another 5 mil for reservoir, plus we're going to have something to operate on a yearly basis.
Right.
We don't have that now.
Plus other
So that's all figured into this rate increase.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then
you know, they were talking about money coming back. Well, that 15 mil, which we owe 9 now, but we're going to have 15 mil, is going to be borrowed over a 30-year period.
Right. So Fitch Ratings just came out with an article recently talking about this exact problem with California water districts. Despite scrutiny, rate increases become first line of defense against California drought. So it's talking about all California water agencies. California water agencies are very strong borrowers in the market. They're always pretty highly rated. They're always seem to be very strong in that they have the ability to raise revenues. And so that's what Fitch does, is it rates borrowers. And it talks about that how all these agencies are going to be going through the Prop 218 process, and that the estimated, they did a survey, the estimated rate increases will range between 5 and 31% over the California water agencies. 37% they're diverting capital expenditures, 46% are using financial reserves, but that doesn't last forever. You're going to have to repay them sometime, and that's where we were at. We're using our financial reserves. So again, 46% of the districts are doing the same thing we're doing. The one thing that is a caveat, which Fitch says, is that because this takes a long process, that utilities that fail to act quickly could face downward rating pressures, meaning that they could actually get rating decreases in their rating. So that means when they do go out to borrow funds, they're going to actually pay more in the market, which is your double-edged sword. You're not raising rates, and now you're going to pay more for when you have to go out and borrow.
If you need the money, the more you need the money, the more they're going to charge.
It's saying act quickly, which we're doing. We're in the face of it right now. Luckily, we had this discussion even before we got into this route, but it's that we're in the right place, we're doing the right thing, and we're moving forward.
What's our rating now? What's our rating now?
A+. A+. And it just got reestablished. If there's questions, I'll answer them. A lot of the financial questions will be answered next board meeting due to the budget. We'll really delve into it, look at it, and go for it.
I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented.
Second. It's been seconded and thirded.
Give it to him. Give it to Fletcher.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Passes 5-0. We are to director's comments. Doug, how about we start with you? We'll put you on the soapbox.
We'll be on the soapbox. There's certainly a lot of stuff happening in the PID and in other places, and as I'm a cockeyed optimist, we're ready to be on top of it, and I have no problem with that, and we're going to be on top of it. One of the things that will help us, though, if this drought ends, but not only because of more water to have in our reservoirs, but it's just really a drain on the state. It really is. Like George has mentioned in a couple of presentations, we're in pretty good shape, but a couple of the other agencies that I know in the state, they are in terrible shape, just absolutely terrible shape. Not only money-wise, but product-wise. We don't follow that kind of thing. So like Ken was saying, we need to have a party or something for our customers because of what they've saved for us. So it's cut down and cut back by really significant. Speaking of that, we got a tour coming up on the 3rd.
Yes, I should mention that. Tour, September 3rd.
Yeah, good. I might show up for lunch, is that all right? Do a little politicking.
Gotta go on the tour for lunch.
No, it's not okay to politic, but it's okay to show up for lunch.
Just being there is politicking.
Okay.
I went on that tour and it was really well done.
Any other comments? Okay. Phil?
Oh, in reply to Seth, I always considered my job when I was on the cemetery board and now I'm on this board as someone that walks around and looks at things and asks questions about things. And it's enabled me to know a lot of different things that I wouldn't know otherwise. And that's always been a characteristic of me serving on these boards, walking through the yards, looking at crews working, and all the rest of it. My attitude is I'm a representative of the public, and that's part of my job and has been for years. I'm sorry you don't appreciate it, but that's the way I do business.
Larry, how about for you?
Well, I'm going to miss the first time. I'm going to miss the lake tour because I'll be at Cal AFCO getting reelected, I hope, to the executive board. And so I'm going to miss that. My wife may go, but I'm not going to. I'm anxious to see how the budget comes because the problem is that even if we get a big rain, people aren't going to start using water. It's going to take 2 or 3 years, and so therefore we've got a plan for it. Yeah, 10 years, and I'm one of the super savers, but even though it is deductible from my business, but I still don't. I never go for it. It's tax deductible, so spend it. I don't believe in that. So I'm proud that our customers are stepping up and conserving water, and hopefully it won't be detrimental to them.
Thank you. Seth?
No, thank you.
Okay. I don't often have director comments, but I may have some director comments, so bear with me for a little while, and then we'll move on to our closed session real property negotiations. I wanted to use this time for my director comments this evening to discuss director conduct. Specifically, I'm going to approach this in two ways. Number one, I'm going to talk about maybe what we shouldn't do. And then number two, I'm going to talk about these bullet points I've taken out of our directors and officers rules and regulations and here. We recently held a grievance appeal hearing. The board's job was to act as an impartial judge and jury for this hearing. Therefore, we needed to be unbiased before the hearing and to hear both sides as their positions were delivered to the board. However, by the actions of Director Kellogg prior to and during the hearing, it appears to me that Director Kellogg had already made up his mind about the grievance. Kellogg then went about a one-man personal quest investigation into the grievance matter. Kellogg seemed to have talked to a lot of PID employees in his search to discover evidence that would support his previously made conclusion. The board's job was to not talk about this issue any earlier than when we heard the presentations for the first time. This did not happen with Kellogg. Now, just imagine how his actions would have been perceived by the union should Kellogg have gone out looking for information to support Manager Barber's position instead of attacking his position. If Kellogg then came into the grievance hearing and discussed all of the investigation he had done prior to the hearing, and by golly, he is now 100% convinced that Manager Barber made the correct decision, just how would the union have reacted to that? More than likely, she would have declared the process tainted. As a hearing officer, clearly investigated the matter before the union could ever present its case, and apparently already decided upon the case before hearing all of the evidence. Kellogg's behavior is not to be condoned, but rather condemned. Kellogg must learn to work within the established rules and procedures of the district and stop charging off on his one-man crusades and vendettas. Okay, now that's the bad news of this. Now the good news. This is the way that we need to be to provide service for our customers. As I said, they come right out of Chapter 2 of the Directors and Officers Guide. Number one, to remain committed to providing excellence in leadership that results in provision of the highest quality of service to its constituents. That the dignity, style, and opinions of each director shall be respected. Clearly, I think we all need to work on that a bit. Responsiveness, a director should be responsive, and attentive listening and communication is always encouraged. The primary responsibility of the board is the formulation and evaluation of policy. Routine matters concerning the operational aspects of the district are to be delegated to the professional staff members of the district. Directors should commit themselves to emphasizing the positive and avoiding, when possible, negative forms of interaction. Directors should commit themselves to focusing on issues and not personalities. The presentation of the opinions of others should be encouraged. Differing viewpoints are healthy in the decision-making process. Individuals have the right to disagree with ideas and opinions, but without being disagreeable. And once the board takes action, directors should commit to supporting said action and not to creating barriers to the implementation of said action. Directors should practice the following procedures. In seeking clarification on informational items, directors may directly approach professional staff members to obtain information needed to supplement, upgrade, or enhance their knowledge to improve legislative decision-making. In handling complaints from residents and property owners of the district, and complaints, said complaints should be referred directly to the manager. In handling items related to safety, concerns for safety, or hazards should be reported to the manager or to the district office. Emergency situations should be dealt with immediately by seeking appropriate assistance. In seeking clarification for policy-related concern, especially those involving personnel, legal action, annexation, property acquisition and development, finances, and programming, said concerns should be referred directly to the manager. When approached by district personnel concerning specific district policy, directors should direct inquiries to the appropriate professional staff supervisor. The chain of command should be followed. The work of the district is a team effort. All individuals should work together in a collaborative process, assisting each other in conducting the affairs of the district. When responding to constituent requests and concerns, directors should be courteous, responding to individuals in a positive and timely manner and routing their questions through appropriate channels and to responsible management personnel. Directors should develop a working relationship with the manager wherein current issues, concerns, and district projects can be discussed comfortably and openly. The Brown Act contemplates that directors should function as a part of the whole board. Issues should be brought to the attention of the board as a whole rather than to individual members selectively. When a director is speaking for himself or in his capacity as an individual member of the board, he should clearly identify that limited capacity. Directors are responsible for monitoring the district's progress in attaining its goals and objectives while pursuing its missions. As I said, those bullet points, I didn't just invent those. That's an excerpt from PID's Director Code of Ethics. This is the code of conduct that we've all agreed to operate under. And I want to remind us of these tenets and encourage the board to work together in a positive, professional, and productive manner toward meeting the best interest of the district as a whole, and not the interest of individuals. And that's my comments. We are now moving into item 14, real property negotiations.
Moving on means there's no public input on there.
Not on director comments.
Real property negotiations. District negotiator will be given direction regarding potential negotiations with Sierra Pacific Industries relating to an easement agreement or boundary line adjustment for a dedicated access road. And at this point, we will move.
If the public wants to talk about it.
Okay, I meant to say, just before we move into the closed session of the real property negotiations, I will ask if there's any public comment in regard to this item about the Sierra Pacific Industries negotiation. Any public comment? Ward?
Yes. Not familiar with how PID has done this, but I am familiar with other agencies that have worked with SPI and have been pleased with the way that they have negotiated contracts such as easement rights and access. So thinking about who they are and who PID is, I think we go forward and do the best we can in negotiating easements and access rights.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comments about this topic?
You could probably announce it probably won't take long, but I don't anticipate any decisions being announced when we come out of closed session.
So there wouldn't be a long wait. Okay, so we shouldn't be long, hopefully, and we'll be back out. And if you choose to wait, thank you.